Chapter 11. Silver Fir City. Night had fallen and the city was ablaze with lights. At this time, a man and a woman dressed in rags finally stumbled to the city gates. If it weren't for Chu Yao's beautiful face, she might have been mistaken for a beggar. Lin Muyu was leaning on a walking stick made from a tree branch with one hand, and clutching the wound on her chest with the other. Although her face and clothes were covered in blood, her handsome face didn't look the slightest bit disheveled. She also had a long bow, a quiver of arrows and a steel arrow on her back and 2 hares in her hands. Therefore she looked no different from a hunter. The city guards didn't make things difficult for her. They just thought that a hunter and a woman had been injured by a wild beast, and so they let them into the city. It was already very late when they returned to Hundred Spirits Apothecary. When Chu Yao knocked on the door and called out Grandpa, the door immediately opened. Chu Feng appeared in the yard with a worried look on his face. His eyes were red and his entire body seemed tense. When he saw that Chu Yao was safe and sound, his heart finally relaxed. "Yao, where have you been? You haven't come back for 2 days and 2 nights. We've searched almost every corner of Silver Fir City," Chu Yao said weakly. "Grandpa, you and I are both slightly injured. Have Luo Kai make some food and send it to Yu's room. We'll talk about the details in his room." Chu Feng nodded. Yes. Luo Kai was the youngest apprentice in the Hundred Spirits Apothecary. He was only 17 years old, but he was very smart. He quickly went to prepare the food. Chu Feng supported Chu Yao, then looked at Lin Muyu. He couldn't help but ask, "You, how are your injuries?" Lin Muyu said, "Let's go in and talk." When they entered the room, Chu Yao and Lin Muyu sat side by side on the bed. Chu Yao also sat down on a rattan chair. She asked anxiously, "What happened? Why were you gone for so long?" Chu Yao immediately recounted everything that had happened in the past 2 days. After listening, Chu Feng gritted his teeth. Who would have thought that the young city lord Hua Wan would be so lawless? Those damned mercenaries treat human life like grass, treating the laws of the empire like child's play. How abominable! Lin Muyu took out the god's alchemy canon. The binding lines were already damaged. She carefully held it in her hands. "Grandpa, can you understand these?" Chu Feng received it and only read the first page before his entire body began to tremble. He had sunk into a crazed excitement and said with a flushed face, "The God of Medicine's tome. It's the real God of Medicine's tome, the treasured tome renowned by the God of Medicine Wang Yizong. Heavens, who knows how many people in the world yearn for this tome, but you guys have actually obtained it." "Grandpa," Chu Yao pouted. "The alchemy god," Chu Yao said. "Of course. The most basic formula in the God's canon is at least level 5. It would be strange if you could understand it." As he spoke, Chu Feng raised the oil lamp and leaned forward. He said to Lin Muyu with concern, "Ah, you take off your clothes. Let Grandpa see your wound." Lin Muyu did as she was told and took off her shirt. Immediately, dozens of crisscrossing wolf claw marks appeared on her chest. Chu Feng felt a lump in his throat. "Poor child, you must have suffered a great deal at that time, right?" "I'm fine. I just didn't want to become the wolf's meal." "You really killed the 800-year-old wolf with your own hands?" "Yes." Chu Yao continued, "I remember at that time, Ayu was covered in blood and punched out such a terrifying fist. Even the internal organs of the swift wolf were beaten out. Grandfather, I feel that Ayu's potential must far surpass mine, perhaps. He is truly suitable for martial cultivation." "Really?" Chu Feng's murky eyes suddenly lit up. He asked happily, Are you willing to learn martial arts? If you are, I will take you to Silver Fir City's war sanctuary tomorrow morning to confirm your strength. No matter how much money you have to spend, Grandpa will definitely hire the best teachers to teach you martial arts. How about it?" "Yes, Grandpa. I am willing." Lin Muyu nodded seriously. He already knew that in this world without enough strength, one would be at the mercy of others. "Good. We will leave tomorrow morning and attend the medicine ceremony in the morning." "Are we still going to attend the medicine ceremony?" Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and said, "If Hua Wan recognizes me and Chu Yao, he definitely won't let us go. We must attend." Chu Feng's attitude was extremely resolute as he said, "But don't worry, Ayu. No one will be able to hurt you guys tomorrow. Moreover, once our medicines obtain a good ranking and become a medicine hall personally appointed by the Emperor's envoy, no one will be able to touch us then." The Emperor's envoy? Yes. Chu Feng smiled as he looked at the confused youth and explained, this news has already spread throughout the entire Silver Fir City. The imperial capital will be sending a special envoy to participate in this year's medicinal ceremony, and he will also be promoting the top 3 medicinal houses. If we can fight for this spot, then no one will be able to do anything to us. Not even Hua Wan, not even his father Hua Tian. Not to mention my old friend will also be coming to Silver Fir City with the special envoy. Alright then. We will listen to Grandpa. Before long Luo Kai came in with dinner. Chu Yao and Lin Muyu had been starving for a long time. After a quick meal they went to bed. Late at night Chu Feng did not close his eyes. Instead he held the God of Medicine tome in a daze. After a long while he looked at the beast blood in the small bottle beside him. It was the blood of a bloodthirsty tiger. It had a strong nature and never congealed. Instead it bubbled as if it was boiling. This was the blood Lin Muyu had collected after the death of the bloodthirsty tiger. There were a dozen bottles in total, all of them grade 5 medicinal ingredients. At this time, Chu Feng made up his mind to refine a divine medicine. The divine medicine was an enhanced version of the strength medicine. It could stimulate the user's potential to an even greater extent, allowing them to erupt with unprecedented power in a short period of time. Chu Feng studied the formula and refining method recorded in the God of Medicine tome for an entire night. By daybreak, the 2 divine medicines had been refined and placed to the side. Let's go. Chu Feng knocked on Lin Muyu's door early in the morning. When the young man opened the door, Chu Feng immediately grabbed his hand and rushed out of the courtyard like a child. Today was like a rebirth for Chu Feng. He hadn't been so happy in a long time. There was only one holy war temple in Cathaya City, and it was called the Holy Hall by the common people. It was the holiest place in the hearts of martial practitioners, and almost all experts came from this place. When Chu Feng brought Lin Muyu to the Holy Hall, there was only one teacher on duty. He was a man around 30 years old with a pair of rat-like eyes. No matter how one looked at him, he didn't look like a good person. He slapped the table and said, "You want to test your strength, right? 1 silver coin." Chu Feng immediately handed over a silver coin and said to Lin Muyu, "Go." The teacher glanced at Lin Muyu and found that there was almost no energy lingering around the young man's body. He couldn't sense any fluctuations of martial spirit energy either. This didn't make sense unless the young man didn't have any power at all. He pushed a crystal ball forward and said, "Cover it with your hand and condense your strongest power into the testing crystal." Lin Muyu placed her hand on the crystal and circulated the true qi in her body to condense it in her palm. This was similar to the essence condensation hand plan. The crystal ball erupted with light and the testing apparatus beside it began to pulse. No way, such powerful energy fluctuations. The teacher was shocked out of his wits. But good things didn't last long. After a few seconds, the testing crystal dimmed and there wasn't even a single record on the apparatus. Ah, what a joke, how laughable. The heavens actually played such a big joke on us, huh? The teacher suddenly looked up and laughed maniacally. Chu Feng was stunned and asked, "Mister, what exactly happened?" The teacher glanced at Lin Muyu and said, "The energy fluctuations in this brat's body are extremely strong. It can be said that it's something I've never seen in my life. Unfortunately, his physique should be the legendary Heaven Cripple." Heaven Cripple? Chu Feng was startled. The teacher continued with a smile. The so-called Heaven Cripple is a natural disability in martial arts. His meridians are naturally blocked, so he can't quickly refine true qi and can't learn or use combat techniques. What a pity. Old man, take him back. This brat is not born to learn martial arts. For a moment, Lin Muyu's heart fell to the bottom of the valley. She was actually a Heaven Cripple. Wasn't the heavens playing a bit too big of a joke on her? I'm sorry. On the way back, Chu Feng comforted her repeatedly. Lin Muyu comforted him instead, saying, "Grandpa, it's all right. Even if I can't practice martial arts, at least I can still refine medicine. It's all the same." Within the sacred hall, a man dressed in fiery red leather armor looked outside through the window lattice. His eyes were shining brightly as he took off his gloves and placed them on the table. He smiled faintly. "Heaven Cripple? Heh. Such a strange breed hasn't appeared in over 1,000 years. Heaven Cripple, huh?" To the side, a soldier was holding a new set of clothes. he said, "General Ning, the medicine ceremony is about to begin. Please change your clothes. The city lord is already waiting for you at the city lord's residence. He'll be going to welcome the special envoy together." Alright. The medicine ceremony could be said to be a grand occasion in Silver Fir City. This year's medicine ceremony had even received the attention of the imperial capital. The emperor himself had sent a special envoy to inspect the ceremony. The disciples of the 100 Spirits Apothecary were also in high spirits. They had prepared a total of 4 medicines for the competition. Among them were Chu Feng's Divine Strength Medicine, Lin Muyu's Stone Skin Medicine, and Chu Yao's and Wang Ying's medicines. The most important one was naturally Chu Feng's Divine Strength Medicine. It was a grade 5 medicine. The medicine ceremony was being held in the open field in front of the city lord's residence. By the time Lin Muyu, Chu Yao and the others had arrived, the people from hundreds of medicine shops had also arrived. There were also countless commoners gathered around to watch. Although Silver Fir City was a small city, it was still incomparably prosperous because of today's grand event. I heard that the Emperor's special envoy will be coming today. I wonder who it will be, but it must be a high official. The commoners were discussing spiritedly. Yeah, how else could he be the Emperor's special envoy? Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, a procession slowly approached from the distance. It was led by a heavily armored cavalryman, followed by a lightly armored guard with a sword, and finally, a carriage with 6 carriages. Chu Yao was momentarily taken aback. 6 carriages? Even the emperor only sends 9 carriages when he goes on patrol. Who could it be? Lin Muyu, however, saw the word Tang fluttering on the flag at the side of the carriage. Tang. Wang Ying was also taken aback. 6 carriages of dignity and surname Tang. Could it be the Duke of Tsonglon Tanglon? Chu Feng hurriedly shouted, "Wang Ying, don't speak nonsense. How can you call the Duke of Tsonglan's name directly?" Wang Ying lowered his head. "Master, I'm sorry." At this moment the carriage slowly stopped in front of the city lord's mansion. The curtain was lifted and a young girl wearing a dress appeared in front of the crowd. The dress was very unique, embroidered with exquisite patterns, and with a single glance, one could tell that the workmanship was very fine. Under the long dress was a pair of snow-white jade-like legs, smooth and flawless. She was simply like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. This young girl was born with the spirit of heaven and earth, and her peerlessly beautiful appearance was suffocating. Just when the crowd was dumbfounded, she had already turned around and leaped off the carriage. A pair of exquisite little boots stepped on the bricks of the city and she said with a smile, "We're finally here." My bud is about to blossom from sitting. The crowd almost fell down together. Who would have thought that such a delicate and jade-like young girl would actually speak so mischievously? City Lord Hua Tian walked forward with a group of officials, knelt on the ground, cupped his fists and said, "Subordinate Hua Tian greets Princess Shi." Chapter 12. It's actually Tang Xiaoxi. On the side, second senior brother Zhou Xian's face was flushed red as he stared at the beautiful girl from afar, seemingly unable to control himself. Lin Muyu was stunned. "Tang Xiaoxi? Who's that?" Zhou Xian glanced at him disdainfully. You don't even know who Tang Xiaoxi is? She's ranked second among the top 10 beauties of Lanyan City. How can you not know her? Top 10 beauties. Lin Muyu seemed to understand something. So there was a ranking like this in this world. Zhou Xian stared at her from afar with an infatuated look on her face. She said, "Tang Xiaoxi's beauty is truly unparalleled in Cathaya City." This was something Lin Muyu had to admit. Tang Xiaoxi was indeed a heavenly beauty and a very intelligent girl at that. Even Chu Yao beside her paled in comparison. Everyone's lowering their heads. Chu Feng shouted in a low voice. "You stinky brat, stop looking. Anyone who blasphemes Princess Shi's looks is a crime punishable by death." Everyone lowered their heads. Tang Xiaoxi was only 2 meters away from them, and all they could see was a pair of small boots and an absolute domain of about 20 centimeters between the boots and her skirt. Her skin was as fair as ice and her bones were as white as snow. Lin Muyu felt dizzy just by looking at her. "I can't take it anymore, she's just too mesmerizing." Tang Xiaoxi walked in front, followed closely by an old man in white robes and light armor. He looked to be about 60 years old and his face was full of vicissitudes of life. However, his expression was reserved and it was obvious that he was an expert. He pressed his hand on his sword as he followed closely behind Tang Xiaoxi. Hua Tian cupped his fists towards him and smiled. Chu, it's been a long time. The old man smiled as well. City Governor Hua Tian has governed Silver Fir City well. The fact that the imperial monarch has sent Princess Xi to inspect the city is a testament to his trust in you. In fact, I should say that we share the same joy. Hua Tian grinned from ear to ear. This way please, Chu. The assembly is about to begin. Just as this Chu walked through the crowd, his bright eyes suddenly fell on Chu Feng. He immediately stood still, cupped his fists and greeted with a smile. Old friend, how come you don't recognize me? Chu Feng also laughed. Chu, what are you talking about? I'm afraid that you don't know this old man. The other party bowed again and said, the conference is about to begin. Let's talk after the conference is over. I still want to discuss the replenishment of medicinal essence with you. All right, this old man will host a banquet in my humble abode to welcome you. All right, let's drink till we're drunk. After he left, Lin Muyu asked, Grandpa, who is this person? What a strong aura. You must be very strong, right? Chu Feng said in a low voice. Chu, a level 94 Saint Realm expert. Naturally, he's very strong. So he's Chu, one of the white-robed royal guards. Zhou Xian's jaw dropped. I heard that he's a poor commoner with no financial group to support him. To think that he's able to cultivate to this level. This is too shocking. There are only a few Saint Realm experts in the entire empire. This Chu can be counted on one hand. Chu Feng looked at Lin Muyu with an expression of infinite regret. He said, I thought that your martial arts cultivation could improve further. I would have asked Chu to guide you in your cultivation. But it's a pity that you have a heaven-crippled physique. Sigh. A long sigh meant that the old man's hope was once again dashed. Chu Feng had always thought that although this granddaughter of his, Chu Yao, was talented and intelligent, she was still a woman. No matter how hard she cultivated, she would never be able to reach the realm of a man. That was why he had placed his hopes on Lin Muyu. However, he didn't expect that Lin Muyu's physique would not be able to practice martial arts. Chu Yao also comforted him. It's all right. Train hard and you'll eventually break through. I don't believe in heresy. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Yes, I know. Although he didn't say it on the surface, he had suffered quite a big blow in his heart. However, Lin Muyu's pride was ingrained in her bones. She would never admit defeat. He never believed that a heaven-crippled physique could not practice martial arts. As long as one was willing to work hard, there was nothing in this world that was impossible, wasn't it? Under the announcement of an official, the medicine ceremony officially began. Every medicine shop had a small booth. In reality, it was just a small table. The medicines were placed on top of the table, waiting for the officials to appraise them. Pingnan Medicine Shop, Level 4 Healing Medicine Grade 6. Songhu Medicine Shop, Level 4 Stone Skin Medicine, Grade 5. Sky Azure Medicine Shop, Level 5 Divine Healing Medicine, Grade 4. Finally, they stopped at the stall of the Divine Feather Medicine Shop. That was the medicine shop of the young governor. The appraiser bowed and appraised the medicine. Then he shouted loudly, Divine Feather Medicine Shop, Level 5 Divine Healing Medicine Grade 2. Level 6 Forceful Medicine Grade 4. Level 7 Sleeping Medicine Grade 4. This was probably the highest level and the highest quality medicine present at the scene. In an instant there were many congratulations. Even Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. Governor Hua Tian actually made a Level 7 medicine of Grade 4. Congratulations. I'm afraid that in a few years, Governor Hua Tian will be promoted to a king of medicine. Hua Tian smiled humbly. Of course not. I only made a Level 7 medicine of Grade 4 by chance. At this time, the appraiser continued to inspect the medicine table by table. Finally, one of them came to the side of the 100 Spirits Medicine Shop's table and tested it with a glass rod. A look of shock immediately flashed across his face. Then he tested Lin Muyu's stone skin medicine. The look of shock on his face became even more intense as he shouted, 100 Spirits Medicine Shop, Level 5 Divine Strength Medicine Grade 3. Level 4 Stone Skin Medicine Grade 1. What? Chu Chu suddenly sat up from his chair, his eyes shining brightly. Who can actually make a level 4 medicine of grade 1? Tang Xiaoxi couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and rushed down the stage, heading straight for Lin Muyu's table. Chu Chu hurriedly followed by a few fully armed guards. Princess Shi, slow down. Chu Chu shouted. Tang Xiaoxi's speed was very fast, so fast that it was shocking. She arrived in front of the 100 Spirits Medicine Shop's table in 2 strides. Holding the bottle of stone skin medicine, she said, Grade 1 stone skin medicine, it's too rare. Chu Chu said, Yes, but princess, you're too rash. If something happens, how am I going to explain it to your grandfather? I promised you that I would protect you. Tang Xiaoxi's attention was completely on the stone skin medicine. She raised her head and looked at Lin Muyu with her starry eyes, asking, This stone skin medicine was made by you? Lin Muyu was a little flustered by her gaze and nodded, Yes, he. The corners of Tang Xiaoxi's mouth curled up into a smile that was as bright as a little white flower. She said, You don't look that old, yet you're able to refine a first-grade medicine. How amazing! Can I try this stone skin medicine? Sure. Lin Muyu didn't dare to resist. There were several fiendish guards staring at her from behind, and each one of them should be 100 times stronger than Hawkeye. She didn't want to die yet. Tang Xiaoxi poured a portion of the medicine on her wrist. After a few seconds, the medicine took effect and her defense increased dramatically. She patted her wrist. Oh, I really don't feel anything. Her right palm opened slightly and a raging flame slowly rose. An illusory fire fox circled around her arm. It was her martial soul. This young girl actually had a high-grade martial soul. She punched her left wrist that was in the state of stone skin. Ping. She gritted her teeth, enduring the pain, and smiled. So powerful. It's just a little pain. If I use this stone skin medicine to soak in it, will I be invulnerable? Lin Muyu was embarrassed and looked at her chest. She thought that it would be a pity if she soaked in it, but she didn't dare to say it out loud and only said, Princess, the effect of the medicine depends on the person's physique. The stronger the person, the longer the effect, but there must be a time limit. So it's like this? Tang Xiaoxi was a little disappointed and pouted, saying, Grandfather always blames me for hurting myself when I cultivate. I thought this first-grade stone skin medicine could save me. Hee, but it's fine, I'll test its defense again. Saying this, she reached out and pulled out the guard's sword and lightly cut her left wrist. Ah, her delicate eyebrows slightly wrinkled. It's bleeding. Lin Muyu wanted to die. Princess, you, Chu Chu hurriedly said. Princess, quickly return to your seat, this isn't a place you should be. After Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Chu and the others walked onto the stage, Lin Muyu looked to the front, and saw Hua Wan shooting a murderous glare at her. It's over, I seem to have stolen the limelight from the young city lord. After nearly 2 hours, the appraisal was finally over. Hua Tian said, Princess Shi, who do you think should be in the top 3? Tang Xiaoxi smiled. That first-grade stone skin medicine is more interesting, and that person is called Lin Muyu, right? I think he should be in first place, what do you think? Hua Tian naturally didn't want to think so, but he still cupped his fists and said, Princess Shi is the special envoy. In that case, let the 100 Spirits Medicine Shop be in first place in this year's medicine ceremony. All right. Just like that, Hua Tian stood up, gathered his true energy and announced in a loud and clear voice. His Majesty has sent Princess Shi to Silver Fir City as a special envoy, bringing light to our humble Silver Fir City. Today's results are out. Lin Muyu of 100 Spirits Medicine Shop is in first place. Hua Wan of Divine Feather Medicine Shop is in second place. And Lu Gu of Sky Blue Medicine Shop is in third place. Saying this, Hua Tian smiled and said, This year's subsidies are as follows. Special approval, the 100 Spirits Medicine Shop will receive 100 Jin coins as operating funds, and the medicines it produces can be auctioned publicly. Also, this year's special pardon will be won by the best of the younger generation through a martial arts competition. Wonderful. Zhao Exin, Luo Kai and the others were overjoyed. Lin Muyu was silent. This wasn't actually a good thing. Chapter 13. Grandpa, what's a special pardon order? Lin Muyu asked. Chu Feng's face was flushed red as he said, The pardon medallion is a true treasure. The Imperial Spirit Medicine Department has issued a total of 10 such medallions, but there's only one in all of Kathia City. Anyone with this medallion will be able to enjoy at least a 50% discount in any medicine store, and they'll also be treated respectfully even in the spirit medicine department. Of course, only the cream of the crop in the alchemy world can obtain this medallion. On the side, Chu Yao's face was a bit displeased. Unfortunately, the rules of Cathaya City state that only the cream of the crop under the age of 30 can win a special pardon order through a martial arts competition. It's called martial arts and medicine at the same time, but among the young alchemists of Cathaya City, Hua Wan's cultivation is the highest. He's a level 29 battle spirit. This is something no one else can compare to. Lin Muyu was startled. Sister Chu Yao, what are your chances of winning against him with your level 20 battle spirit? Chu Yao gritted her teeth. My martial spirit is nowhere near as strong as his, and the mayor of Cathaya City has invited many extraordinary experts to teach him combat techniques. I've never learned any combat techniques in my life. Never learned. Why? Beside him, Chu Feng sighed and said, It's all my fault as a useless grandfather. Battle techniques and martial arts books are too expensive. A good one costs at least 10 Jinin coins. But how can our 100 Spirits Medicine Hall afford so much money? Furthermore, Yao is a girl. I don't plan to let her have any achievements in martial arts. Luo Kai looked at Cathaya on the stage, his eyes filled with indignation. He clenched his fists and said, No matter what, we have to give it a try. If 100 Spirits Apothecary can get the special pardon order, then we'll truly be able to make a comeback. Chu Feng was silent. In the evening, 100 Spirits Apothecary welcomed an honored guest. White-robed Chu Chu arrived and was welcomed into the living room by Grandpa Chu Feng. Behind him was an even more illustrious guest. That graceful young lady had also arrived. The legendary second beauty of the empire, Tang Xiaoxi. She was only 19 years old, but she was already a peerless beauty. A group of disciples were picking up herbs. Lin Muyu was among them. Chu Yao had gone to make tea. Luo Kai's childish eyes looked towards the living room. He stuck out his tongue and smiled. Senior brother, is that Chu Chu? The legendary white-robed Chu Chu? He looks like an old man. He's not as powerful as the rumors say. Zhao Exin immediately raised her hand and smacked Luo Kai's forehead. She laughed and said, Little brat, don't make irresponsible remarks. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, who doesn't know about him? Moreover, his current status is extremely noble. Only a few people in the entire empire can wear the white robe to protect the emperor's safety. Why is it called Fire Cauldron Chu Chu? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. That's because his martial soul is called the Fire Cauldron, a third-grade martial soul. It's said that he once defeated 2 Saint Realm experts with this Fire Cauldron. As Wang Ying spoke, he sneered at Lin Muyu and said, You have a heaven's handicap body, you can't practice martial arts. Don't even think about it. Not to mention, a body like yours is no different from trash. You can't possibly have a martial spirit, right? He couldn't hide the disdain in his eyes. Lin Muyu didn't care and continued to pick up the herbs. In the living room, Chu Feng served a cup of tea and said with a smile, Elder Chu, have a taste of this clear tea. It's a type of medicinal tea that's fragrant and refreshing. The tea is brewed with dew. Princess Shi, why don't you have a taste as well? Tang Xiaoxi smiled and took a sip. She stuck out her tongue and said, I don't really know how to taste tea. Grandpa always spends a lot of time brewing tea, but the tea is too bitter. Chu Chu couldn't help but smile with a doting expression. That's because you don't know how to taste tea. How can an ordinary person have the chance to taste Duke Songlan's tea? As he spoke, Chu Chu took a sip and couldn't help but praise, good tea. It's indeed fragrant and refreshing. Alright, this must be Chu Yao. I didn't expect you to grow so big in the blink of an eye. The last time I came to Silver Fir City, you were still a baby. Chu Yao chuckled. Chu and Grandpa were friends for 20 years. I was naturally too young back then. Chu Chu laughed and asked, Brother Chu, how have you been all these years? You're still a great apothecary, but you seem to be so poor. Must have been hard on you. Chu Feng laughed awkwardly. Sigh, this old man only knows how to pick tea in the mountains and collect dew at dusk. My body is weak and I can't pick many high-grade medicinal herbs myself. I can't afford to buy them either, so I can only stay where I am. Today, that disciple of yours called Lin Muyu, was he really the one who refined the first-grade medicine? Yes, you is a natural genius. It's a pity. What's a pity? Chu Chu was stunned. Chu Feng said, "It's a pity that his talent is not bad. It's just that his body is a crippled physique. His meridians are naturally blocked and he can't circulate his true qi. That's why the Saint Hall masters said he can't practice martial arts at all." "Is that so?" Chu Chu looked at the group of disciples picking herbs outside the door and couldn't help but laugh. "I don't think so." Chu Feng immediately stood up and bowed to Chu Chu. "Brother Chu, what are you doing?" Chu Chu also stood up and asked reproachfully. Chu Feng sighed and said, "Chu, to tell you the truth, I'm already over 70 years old. It's fine for me to suffer a bit of humiliation, but Yao and you shouldn't have their lives ruined by the hands of vile people. I've invited Chu Chu here for this matter. I hope that you can accept Yao and you as your disciples." Chu Chu had an awkward expression. This time I've been entrusted by Duke Songlon to protect Princess Xi. Our next destination is the imperial capital Lanyan City. I'm afraid we won't be able to stay in Silver Fir City for too long. I can give the two children some pointers, but if it's accepting disciples, I'm afraid Tang Xiaoxi seemed to have understood something. She smiled and said, "Grandpa Chu Chu, you've never accepted a disciple in your entire life. Could it be that you want to lose your chastity in your old age?" Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. "Princess Xi, you're laughing at me." He looked at Lin Muyu from afar. He could vaguely see the shadow of his younger self in this youth. In truth, Chu Chu was indeed tempted. Lin Muyu was able to refine a grade 1 stone skin medicine at such a young age, so he must be extraordinary. Moreover, it was said that he had a crippled physique. This made Chu Chu even more interested. He had been challenging his entire life, and this time he really wanted to see if a person with a crippled physique could become the next expert. Right at this moment, a commotion suddenly came from outside the door. Immediately after, the door was kicked open and a group of armored people walked in. The person in the lead was dressed in luxurious clothing. It was the young city lord Hua Wan. "100 Spirits Medicine Hall Master Chu Feng, come out to receive your reward." Chu Feng hurriedly went out to welcome them. Tang Xiaoxi also wanted to go out, but she was stopped by Chu Chu. He wanted to see what would happen. "Young city lord." Chu Feng bowed respectfully. Hua Wan took a heavy bag of money from the hands of his henchmen behind him. He smiled and said, "This is 100 Jinin coins. It's the reward that your 100 Spirits Medicine Hall has received. Congratulations." But he took out a black token from his waist and said with a smile, "But I reckon that this special pardon will still belong to me, Hua Wan, this year. After all, the young disciples of your 100 Spirits Medicine Hall are all a bunch of trash. Not a single one of them is presentable." "What did you say?" Zhou Xian was more impulsive. He shouted in a low voice, "Hua Wan, watch your words." Hua Wan sneered. Suddenly he threw the bag of money on the ground. He crossed his fists and streams of vital energy condensed into a soul armor around his body. He smiled and said, "Why? Do you want to experience my abilities? It's good too. Today I'll beat all of you trash to the ground. That way I won't have to see your disgusting faces in the arena 3 days later." Zhao Xian said angrily, "One-on-one? Do you dare?" "Why not?" Hua Wan shouted to the group of subordinates behind him, "Listen up. No one is allowed to make a move. Even if I kill or cripple them, you are not allowed to help." The group of martial artists cupped their fists and said, "Yes, young city lord." Hua Wan had already set up his battle formation. He stood with his feet drawn in a circle. He indeed had the demeanor of a master. Moreover, he did not even use any weapons. He just stood there with his bare hands. He smiled provocatively and said, "Trash, come on." Zhao Xian roared. He pulled out an iron sword from the side and rushed out. There were 2 layers of chi waves condensed from vital energy on the sword's blade. The power was at level 15 of the 2nd level of the human realm. This surprised Hua Wan, but he was even more certain that this person was definitely not his opponent. The difference in strength was too great. Just at the moment when Zhao Xian's iron sword was about to touch Hua Wan suddenly dodged. His speed was far faster than his opponent's. He turned sideways and gave a vicious kick. Crack! With a crisp sound, Zhao Xian knelt on the ground and howled miserably. The bone in his calf had been broken just like that. "Young city lord." Chu Feng was furious. He shouted in a low voice, "What do you mean by this? You're so vicious. Are you trying to kill someone?" Hua Wan raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Old man, if I really wanted to kill someone, I would have kicked him in the back of his head. It was your disciple who provoked me first. Shut up." As he spoke, he looked at the group of disciples from the 100 Spirits Medicine store arrogantly and asked, "Who else?" Wang Ying gritted his teeth but did not speak. He was only at level 17 of the second level of the human realm. He was not Hua Wan's opponent at all. If he went up, he would probably end up the same as Zhou Xian. At this moment, Lin Muyu walked out slowly. She looked at Hua Wan coldly and said with a faint smile, "You came for me. Why do you have to hurt the innocent?" "I'm happy to. What's wrong? I heard you bunch of trash and even dirted my hands. What do you think? Are you not satisfied?" As he spoke, Hua Wan's face was filled with a sarcastic smile. "Lin Muyu, I just heard that you went to the Saint Hall and was confirmed to have a deity-damaged body. Ah, you're really trash. Even if you can refine medicine, so what? Trash will always be trash. You'll never be able to enter the Hall of Elegance." Lin Muyu did not speak. He took a step forward and performed the signature move of the falling star step. Then he raised his right palm. Although he had no cultivation, he gave off the feeling of a master. He looked at Hua Wan indifferently and said, "Come on." Almost everyone thought that Lin Muyu had gone crazy. He was level 0 while his opponent was level 29. Chapter 14. You. Chu Yao opened her mouth, her face full of worry. "You have to be careful." In a corner of the living room, Tang Xiaoxi stretched her neck and watched the fight through the gap of the window. She raised her round but high and said happily, "Wow, the alchemist named Lin Muyu is going to fight with Hua Wan. Grandpa Chu Chu, who do you think will win?" Chu Chu cupped his fists and did not even look at them. He raised his head and closed his eyes. In fact, he could see through the actions of the people outside. He smiled faintly and said, "Hua Wan is full of arrogance while Lin Muyu is full of pride. Hua Wan's strength is not weak, while Lin Muyu's body does not emit any battle aura. If I must say, Lin Muyu has won in terms of aura, but in terms of battle he will definitely lose." Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said nothing. Hua. This time Hua Wan took the initiative to attack. He punched out fiercely and the wind around the fist was wrapped with burning sharpness, which shocked everyone. If this punch hit his opponent, he would be crippled even if he didn't die. However, to everyone's surprise, the punch missed. That's right, Hua Wan, who was at the peak of the 3rd level of the human realm, didn't hit Lin Muyu. In fact, no one even saw how Lin Muyu dodged the attack. All they saw was a flash before their eyes as Lin Muyu landed firmly on the side of her original position like a meteor falling to the ground. What? Hua Wan's punch missed and his face was full of doubt. Then he became angry from embarrassment and turned around to punch again. Lin Muyu hurriedly bent her back and instantly formed a metal bridge. She managed to avoid the second attack and flipped her body to the side. At the same time, she gave Hua Wan a heavy kick on her ankle. Bang! True Qi surged and Hua Wan staggered. Lin Muyu felt a piercing pain in her feet. In terms of speed, Hua Wan was not as fast as her, but in terms of physical strength she was far inferior. In fact, the 3 realms of the human realm were all about tempering the body. The first realm was skin tempering, the second realm was body tempering, and the third realm was bone tempering. Hua Wan had reached level 29 and had reached the peak of bone tempering. Her body had been tempered from the inside to the outside. How could she be afraid of Lin Muyu's attack? This was the difference in strength. It could even be said that Lin Muyu's attack could not break through his defense at all. Hey! Hua Wan also understood this. She suddenly shouted in a low voice, "Are you done playing?" Hua Wan's body shook and his power surged. A big hammer flickering with lightning appeared in his hand. Thunder hammer. Chu Feng was shocked. Chu Yao was on the verge of tears. She shouted, "Hua Wan, you're shameless. How can you use your martial spirit against someone who doesn't have a martial spirit? You're too shameless. Stop." Hua Wan couldn't care less. He wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Muyu right here and now. That way, no one in Kathia City would be able to compete with him for the title of the #1 alchemist of the younger generation. Buzz. Hua Wan's murderous intent did not stop. Although it was a bare-handed attack, his martial spirit carried a strong electric current as it blasted out. Lin Muyu hurriedly used fallen star steps to dodge, but she was still a bit slower and was still hit in the back. She immediately felt a burning sensation and numbness all over her body. This thunder hammer was indeed powerful. With a wrong step, Lin Muyu silently picked up a withered short stick. It was a branch of an iron pear flower. Although its medicinal essence had been extracted, it was still very sturdy. There were some needles on it, but one thing was for sure. The iron layer of the flower had been peeled off, so it would not conduct electricity. Peng! There was no way to dodge. Hua Wan's fist filled with murderous intent slammed into the branch of the iron pear flower. An enormous force surged forth, and Lin Muyu only felt a sweet taste in her chest. Ah! A mouthful of blood rushed up her throat, but she was unwilling to give up and forcefully swallowed it back down. She spun her feet, activating fallen star steps. Her body magically hovered in the air for nearly a second. Then she turned around and whipped the branch of the iron pear flower onto Hua Wan's face. Pa! Hua Wan's face burned with pain. He reached out to touch it and found that it was bleeding. The needles on the iron pear flower were too sharp. Even a peak third-level mortal realm expert like him had been wounded. Although it was only a scratch, it was still the greatest humiliation of his life. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. To think that a handsome man like me would be disfigured by a piece of trash today. I'll kill you. Hua Wan roared and spun his body. His thunder hammer brought with it waves of flames as it smashed towards Lin Muyu. This time not only did he use his martial soul, but he also used his combat skills. It's crisscrossing raging flames. Luo Kai was shocked. He used his combat skills. Brother, you be careful. Hua Wan's attack was too powerful. Even the fallen star steps couldn't avoid it. Moreover, Lin Muyu didn't want to avoid it. If he kept running, he would never have a chance of winning. He lowered his feet and pushed himself up from the ground. He raised the iron pear flower horizontally to block his opponent's attack. With a loud sound, his clothes were torn into pieces, and the wound that hadn't completely healed started bleeding again. Hua Wan's martial soul's attack directly made him fall back. However, before Hua Wan could be proud of himself, he suddenly felt a burning sensation on his left cheek. Pa! The moment Lin Muyu fell back, he pulled out his sword again. If it wasn't the iron pear flower in his hand, but a fine steel sword, Hua Wan would probably be dead by now. Mother asterisk her, you bastard. I'm going to kill you. Hua Wan rushed forward angrily. He raised his thunder hammer high and was ready to strike. Stop. At this time Chu Chu finally walked out. He shouted and stood in front of Lin Muyu. But what kind of person was Hua Wan? He had lived like a prince since he was young. When had he ever been humiliated like this? This attack was directly thrown down. At this time he didn't care who was in front of him. Even if it was the emperor, he would kill them first. A trace of anger flashed past Chu Chu's eyes. He didn't move. Suddenly there was a hua-hua sound of wind. It was the wind of raging flames. In the next moment, a huge transparent cauldron emerged from the ground and wrapped around his body. This was his martial soul. The legend of the fire cauldron Chu Chu also came from this. Lightning scattered. Hua Wan's martial soul had already collapsed the moment it came into contact with the cauldron. The difference in strength was too great. Even his body was sent flying by the cauldron like a kite with a broken string. Falling heavily to the ground, Hua Wan spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked up at Chu Chu and shouted, "Chu, why are you helping this brat? What is the meaning of this?" Chu Chu said indifferently, "Lin Muyu is the disciple of Chu Chu, the ancient Chu Feng. I won't watch you kill her. Young city lord, leave some leeway. If you really want to kill Lin Muyu, then come at me. If your father Hua Tian doesn't want to be the city lord, I only need to say a word and his majesty will be able to remove the city lord of a small silver fir city as easily as crushing an ant." Only then did Hua Wan realize the severity of the situation. Then he saw Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful figure walk out of the living room. His face immediately turned pale and he stood up with the help of his subordinates. He cupped his fists and said, "My apologies, Chu. I was just sparring with Lin Muyu and didn't hold back. I hope Chu can forgive me." Chu Chu also smiled. It's normal for young people to be brave and fierce. If young city lord must fight with Lin Muyu, then why don't you wait for another 3 days? If you really want to kill him, then it'll be easy. That is, if you can kill him. Hua Wan angrily left with a group of guards from the city lord's mansion. Lin Muyu stood up awkwardly from the corner and said, Chu, what do you mean by waiting for another 3 days? Chu smiled and said, Princess, she has already cultivated to the realm of a level 29 battle spirit. I plan to bring her into the depths of the 7 Stars Forest to train and find a suitable beast spirit for her to break through to level 30. If you don't mind, I'll bring you along and guide your cultivation along the way. What do you think? Chu Feng was overjoyed. Why aren't you nodding? Lin Muyu immediately nodded. Thank you, Chu. Chu Yao looked at Tang Xiaoxi, who was beside her. This girl was only 19 years old, 6 years younger than her, but she had already cultivated to level 29. What would happen in another 6 years? Moreover, she was so beautiful. At such a young age, she already had a full chest and a slender waist. With such a girl around, people simply didn't want to live anymore. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, looked at Lin Muyu with delight. She felt that if this silly boy entered the 7 Stars Forest with her, at least the journey wouldn't be too boring. Fire Cauldron Chu was a rather cold and arrogant person. He usually didn't say a word or would only look after himself. With Lin Muyu accompanying him, he could at least make him refine a medicine for him to play with along the way. At the very least, he could make him perform a trick for him to play with. Of course, this heartless fellow didn't openly express his thoughts. Chu's thoughts were even simpler. Lin Muyu was a moldable talent. Be it her temperament or character, they were all to his liking. Moreover, this brat seemed to have a unique understanding of alchemy. He, on the other hand, was a rookie who was extremely interested in alchemy. In any case, he might be able to make some progress in alchemy during the 3 days of cultivation. Lin Muyu's thoughts were even simpler. This Chu's fire cauldron had beaten Hua Wan into a sorry state with just one move. This old fellow was simply too powerful. Training with him would only bring benefits and no harm. I must become stronger. Become stronger. I must become the most powerful person in this world. Only I can bully others, no one else can bully me. In the future, I'll be bullying people like Hua Wan for fun. This is a truly free life. At night, after dinner, Chu Yao prepared Lin Muyu's luggage. It was very simple. A set of clothes and some dry food. In addition, she also brought Lin Muyu's steel sword and longbow. After all, the 7 Stars Forest was a place without humanity. It was always good to have weapons in hand. Before leaving, Chu gave Chu Yao some pointers in a hurry. He gave her a set of silver needles, an atlas of 1,000 transformation, and a medical book. Chu Yao looked at the set of silver needles and was very confused. Grandpa Chu, are these needles used to sew clothes? Chu shook his head. No, silver needles are used to pierce acupuncture points to save people. Of course, if you practice the silver needle technique to the extreme, it can also be used as a hidden weapon to kill people. Tonight I'll teach you the technique of throwing needles. Practice it well. Then look at the atlas and medical book. You can save people, but you can also injure them. You have to know your limits. Thank you, Grandpa. Chu Yao was very happy. Chapter 15. It's 5 in the morning. Lin Muyu, get up and set off. In his dreams, Chu forcefully knocked on the door. Lin Muyu suddenly woke up and looked out the window. The starry sky was still there. It was at most 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Although he didn't know why he left in such a hurry, Lin Muyu still obeyed and jumped out of bed. He quickly put on his clothes and went out. He craved great power, and Chu was someone who could bring him great power. Teacher, it's not even dark yet, why are you leaving? I'm going to greet Grandpa and Sister Chu Yao before I leave. Don't greet them, let's go. In the dark, Chu was dressed in a white robe and said with an unquestionable tone, a day's work is in the morning. How long do you want to sleep? You can come back after 3 days and sleep as much as you want. Moreover, I'm not your teacher, I'm only teaching you for 3 days. I Chu will never accept a disciple in my life. You can just call me Chu, how about it? Lin Muyu followed him out of the courtyard. On the side, Tang Xiaoxi, the noble princess, also followed. She held a thin sword in her hand and led 2 horses. She handed one of the reins to Lin Muyu and said, "This horse is yours. It's a good grassland horse. You've lucked out." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. Lin Muyu turned around and looked at the horse. It was indeed not bad. Its body was sturdy, its hair was smooth, and its eyes were full of spirit. With one look, one could tell that it was a fine horse. He looked at Tang Xiaoxi's horse. Her mount was a small horse with fiery red hair. Its figure matched her petite figure. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to see through his thoughts and couldn't help but laugh. You think my 1,000-mile flame is weak? Do you want to give it a try? I guarantee that you won't be able to see my back in the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. Lin Muyu was speechless, but she did not challenge the princess. So this fiery red pony was called Qian Li Hua. The name was very appropriate, but whether it could travel 1,000 miles in a day was unknown. At the very front, Chu Chu was leading a sturdy black horse. The hooves of the horse were hammered with horseshoes, and there was a purple flower emblem on the horse's butt. That was a war horse. We'll leave Kathaya City before dawn. I heard that there's a bun shop in the south of the city. We'll leave after we're done eating, Chu Chu said. Yes. Lin Muyu listened carefully. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, said with a smile, Chu, is there anything better than the imperial capital's beef buns? Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. Princess, you must be joking. The imperial capital's flour slices beef is the best in the world. Even His Majesty has personally tasted it. No one can beat it. That's right. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips and said with a smile, the moment we talk about good food in the capital, I suddenly miss Shaoyin. Chu Chu said, after we cultivate in the 7 Stars Forest for 3 days and help Princess She rise to rank 30, we can naturally return to the capital to see His Highness. By the time they left the city, the sky was still dark. It was only the eastern sky that was beginning to brighten. Chu Chu kept his word and found a bun shop in the forest outside the city. This place was close to the 7 Stars Forest and wild beasts would occasionally appear. Therefore, this bun shop was set up here to provide food and lodging for the traveling merchants and passers-by. The sky was still dark, but the staff were already busy steaming buns. Waiter, 1 bun per person and 3 days' worth of food for the 3 of us, Chu Chu said straightforwardly. The staff was quite efficient. Very soon the buns were served and they were filled with meat. The last time they had meat was 3 days ago, so Lin Muyu naturally ate heartily. She ate an entire steamer of buns like a tornado, and Tang Xiaoxi was dumbfounded. Wow, Mu, you're really reborn. What's reborn? Lin Muyu was confused. She didn't know why this young princess would call her Mu. It was a very strange feeling. Moreover, Lin Muyu felt that Tang Xiaoxi was more of a friendly feeling, and not the arrogance of a noble girl. If Tang Xiaoxi was from a noble family, she would have already ordered Lin Muyu around like a servant, and wouldn't even be willing to talk to her. Chu Chu smiled and said, legend has it that it was a strange beast in ancient times. It was gluttonous and very strong, but because it ate too much it couldn't run anymore. Therefore it was hunted down by the Radiant King, and its fur was made into a king's robe. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and stuck out her tongue and continued to eat. After eating, Chu Chu placed all the packed food and water into the luggage beside Lin Muyu's mount, and said, let's set off before the sun rises. Chu, why are we in such a hurry? Lin Muyu couldn't help but ask. Chu Chu smiled. Because at sunrise today it will be a very difficult time for you. Why? An hour after sunrise, I want to awaken the martial soul that's sleeping in the depths of your heart. Chu Chu's eyes flashed and he said confidently, if a cultivator doesn't even awaken their martial soul, then they're no different from trash. I awakened my martial soul at the age of 14, and Princess She awakened the martial soul passed down in her family at the age of 9. What's the martial soul passed down in your family? That's right, I almost forgot that a rookie like you doesn't understand anything. Chu Chu took a deep breath and explained, the strength of a martial soul is largely determined by one's bloodline. She was born in the 7 Seas Tang sect, and she awakened her Fire Fox martial soul at the age of 9. Fire Fox is a 2nd-grade martial soul, and only those with the bloodline of the Tang sect can awaken it. Martial souls that are passed down through bloodlines are rare, and other than the Fire Fox, the members of the Qin family with the imperial bloodline of the empire have a special martial soul called the God-Binding Lock. It's a 1st-grade martial soul, and even a newly awakened God-Binding Lock is enough to raise one's cultivation by 50%. This is something that ordinary people don't even dare to think about. As he spoke, Chu Chu sighed, and looked at Lin Muyu with a trace of sympathy in his eyes. He said, you and I are both commoners and we don't have that kind of innate bloodline. We can only rely on our own sweat and tears to cultivate our martial souls. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded her head, thinking that the Qin family's martial soul was so strong, and she seemed to have seen the God-binding lock before. That's right, when the group of God Realm experts surrounded and attacked the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Qin Yi's martial soul was the God-binding lock. It was extremely strong, but it was still no match for the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. The 3 mounted their horses and galloped forward, and before sunrise they had already entered the 7 Stars forest. Chu Chu urged his horse to lead the way and they came to the front of a mountain peak. He tied up the warhorse and then led Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi up the mountain. When they arrived at the small mountain peak, they could already see the horizon of the forest in the distance, and the sun was about to rise. Lin Muyu, Chu Chu said in a low voice. Here. Circulate the true qi in your body and gather all the true qi you can control in front of your chest. Now hurry. Yes. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and silently circulated the true qi in his body, gathering it all in front of his chest. But just as the people in the Saint Hall had said, he was a heaven's handicap body, and the true qi couldn't smoothly circulate after passing through the meridian's hub. The pressure in front of his chest increased, and a suffocating and oppressive feeling lingered in front of his chest, as if it was about to crush his chest. Ugh. He endured the pain and sweat poured down his face like rain. Now release your strength and relax your entire body. Release your true qi from your chest. Chu Chu's voice was still very strict. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, and the true qi in his chest leaked out, causing his clothes to flutter and make buzzing sounds. Tang Xiaoxi sat on a rock at the side, smiling as she watched Lin Muyu cultivate. She also released her own martial soul, and that small and exquisite firefox scuttled around the young girl's arm, even letting out GGG sounds. It was like a living creature and it made the young girl giggle and tremble. It still doesn't work. Chu Chu looked at the true qi leaking out of Lin Muyu's chest and said, Martial souls are innate, everyone has their own martial soul but you? Why can't your martial soul come out? Saying this he looked towards the east and said, You need to look straight in the direction of the sunrise, look at the sunlight and don't blink and don't close your eyes. Yes. Lin Muyu looked towards the direction of the sunrise, and 10,000 rays of red light pierced through the clouds, and the sun was already slowly rising. Chu Chu said, The rising sun is divided into 7 colors, and you need to use your eyes to distinguish the purple from the 7 colors. When you see the purple it means that you have already captured the essence of the sunlight. Purple qi. Qi is the foundation of cultivation, and is also the most fundamental strength of us martial artists. Refining the essence of the purple qi will allow you to quickly form your martial soul. Lin Muyu stared unwaveringly at the sun, and after a few minutes, a miraculous scene occurred. The colors in the sunlight began to slowly separate, and he caught a hint of purple. He firmly held onto it, and his body began to frantically absorb the power of the purple qi like a dried-up lake. At this moment his body also began to emit a faint purple splendor. Tang Xiaoxi opened her small mouth and was extremely surprised. She didn't think that Lin Muyu would be able to find the location of the purple qi so quickly. Seeing this, Chu Chu revealed a slight expression of approval and said, Continue, condense the purple qi in your body into your chest, and try to force your martial soul again. Yes. A mass of purple qi wandered wantonly in his body, and when Lin Muyu tried to force it out of his body, it suddenly became violent. His chest felt as if it was hit by a heavy blow and his whole body trembled. His legs suddenly couldn't stand and with a plop sound he knelt on the ground and his whole body trembled. His whole body was in unbearable pain, and a vigorous force was attacking the purple qi in his body. What's wrong with him? Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face revealed a trace of worry and nervousness. Chu Chu gritted his teeth and suddenly covered his palm on Lin Muyu's back, but he felt a ridiculously strong force crazily devouring his true qi. This force made him feel threatened and it attacked his own strength as if it was saying that Lin Muyu's body was his, and he was not allowed to step into it. Dream on. What kind of person was Chu Chu? Naturally he wouldn't give up so easily. His palms exerted force and with a loud roar the power of the Saint Realm spread out, and immediately suppressed the force in Lin Muyu's body. He quickly took a step back and shouted, Fire cauldron, come out. Buzz. A huge martial soul surrounded by raging flames appeared, and immediately enveloped Lin Muyu. Her body was enveloped by a scorching power that could almost kill, and Lin Muyu suddenly opened her eyes and said, "Chu Chu, what are you doing? Are you going to kill me?" Chu Chu indifferently said, "Don't misunderstand, you are my old friend Chu Feng's disciple, I can't kill you. This move is called boiling pig to death. Since your martial soul is unwilling to come out, then I will personally force it out. I think many experts use this method to refine their martial souls." Chapter 16. The burning sensation became more and more intense. Lin Muyu clenched his teeth and didn't make a sound. In fact, he hadn't made a single sound since he started cultivating. How could he not be able to endure this bit of pain? Under the high temperature, even the outer layer of his clothes was slowly disintegrating and about to burn. Lin Muyu felt as if every cell in his body was about to evaporate. This kind of pain was absolutely unbearable for ordinary people. On the side, Tang Xiaoxi covered her mouth as she couldn't bear to watch. She had seen Chu Chu use the fire cauldron to deal with others before, but that person was a bandit and was killed by the fire cauldron. Would Lin Muyu also end up like that? Lin Muyu knelt on one knee and supported himself with his arms. He didn't fall under the heat of the fire cauldron, but his mind was almost completely blank. The high temperature had almost taken away his will and thoughts. At this moment, with a bang, a door opened in his mind and a tender voice came, "Ah, it's burning me, it's burning me." When he opened his eyes, he saw a little elf flying around in his mind. It even flew out of his mind and danced behind Lin Muyu, shouting, "Big brother, what are you doing? Hurry and tell that old man to stop, he wants to burn you and me together." This elf was about 20 centimeters tall and wore green elven clothes. She also had long legs and a full chest. Her face was very delicate and looked very familiar. Lin Muyu looked again and his jaw almost dropped to the ground. Wasn't this the female elf official Lulu? How did the Lulu in the game come to this world? Ooh. Lin Muyu found that he could use his mind to communicate with this female elf official. Moreover, Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi ignored Lulu. They shouldn't be able to see her. Could it be that Lulu only existed in his mind? However, he was about to be burned to death. He hurriedly said, "Lulu, Chu wants to force out my martial spirit. Where is my martial spirit? Just take something out to make up for it." "Oh, why am I here? Didn't I go offline in the game? Big brother, where are you? This place looks like the conquering continent." Lulu flapped her wings and endured the scorching heat. She frowned as if she was blaming him. "Big brother, you've either sold or deleted everything. What else can you take out? Ooh, there seems to be something in your refining cauldron. Ooh, it's a trash gourd. It's the waste left behind from refining the 7-core jade. Is that okay? I'll take it." Lin Muyu was about to be burned to death. How could he care so much? In the next moment, a cool energy surged out of his body. Lin Muyu shouted loudly and forced this martial spirit out of his body. A small green gourd slowly rotated in front of his chest. It was suffused with a faint green light. It looked pretty, but this kind of martial spirit didn't seem very powerful. At this time, Lin Muyu finally understood what a martial spirit was in this world. It was actually equivalent to a martial artist's innate magical weapon. It was used to attack and defend. Oh, it appeared. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Chu Chu nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "So it's a green gourd martial spirit. No wonder this brat has good attainments in alchemy." The fire cauldron dispersed. The grass around Lin Muyu had already been burned. The female elf official Lulu had once again fallen into a deep sleep. No one knew when she would wake up again. He extended his hand to hold his martial spirit. The green gourd slowly rotated in his palm. There was a spiritual contract between them. It was as if he could sense any trace of the martial spirit's aura. Chu Chu said, "Although it's a 10th grade martial spirit, it should be of some use if it's cultivated properly. At least it's enough to deal with Hua Wan." "Is a 10th grade martial spirit powerful?" Lin Muyu asked carefully. Tang Xiaoxi covered her mouth and snickered. Chu Chu also laughed. "Martial spirits are divided into 10 grades. My fire cauldron is ranked 4th, Princess Xi's firefox is ranked 2nd, and your green gourd is ranked 10th. What do you think?" "In other words, this green gourd is the weakest?" Lin Muyu said. "Yes." "Ah." Lin Muyu screamed in her heart. This gourd was a waste from her refining. If she hadn't sold the 7-star lamp, profound spirit staff, 9 heavens demon lotus and other sacred weapons, any one of them would probably be considered a first or second grade martial spirit in this world. She regretted it so much that her intestines were about to turn green. Tang Xiaoxi was a kind girl. He probably felt that Lin Muyu was very sad at this moment. She comforted her. Mu, don't be sad. A 10th grade martial spirit has a chance to evolve into a 9th grade, or even an 8th or 7th grade martial spirit. Don't be depressed, there will be a chance. Then is there a chance to evolve into a 1st grade martial spirit? Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but laugh. You're dreaming. It seemed like she was not good at comforting people. Lin Muyu did not mind as he had thought of another way. He was a master in the art of craftsmanship. As long as he had enough materials, he would be able to refine this green gourd into a top-notch magical weapon. It would definitely not be weaker than a grade 1 martial spirit. He was confident that he could do it. Chu Chu said, a cultivator's life is actually spent on cultivating his martial spirit. The stronger the martial spirit, the stronger the power of his attack and defense. This is because the martial spirit will provide the source of power for any of your combat skills. Do you understand? I understand. Thank you, Chu. The haze in Lin Muyu's heart was swept away. Chu Chu nodded his head in satisfaction and said with a smile, the green gourd is a plant-type martial spirit. It specializes in healing, binding, and defense. This is also your main direction of development. In the future you may be a support-type warrior. Don't rush to the front in battle. Just understand this. Okay. Let's continue. Your power is still in the chaotic period. Find a spirit beast that is over 200 years old and kill it before noon. Use your green gourd to absorb the beast spirit and see how much it can improve your personal power. Yes. Lin Muyu smiled and nodded. Thank you, Chu. Chu Chu stroked his beard and smiled. Don't thank me. It's not that easy. Any cultivator needs to go through hardships. Once you meet a suitable spirit beast, I will not take action. You need to kill it yourself. Otherwise, you are not worthy of absorbing the beast spirit. Do you understand? Lin Muyu's heart moved. She couldn't help but sigh. This old fellow did not seem to care about his own life and death. He was too inhumane. It was said that a 200-year-old spirit beast strength was equivalent to a level 20 battle spirit. Whether or not one could kill it depended on one's luck. At this moment it started to drizzle. After the 3 of them went down the mountain, they found their horses and galloped towards the depths of the forest. Lin Muyu was dressed in green and looked extremely handsome. Tang Xiaoxi was wearing a fiery red dress and an exquisite cloak. When the drizzle landed on her face, it was like spring rain falling on pear blossoms. There was an inexplicable sense of beauty. Lin Muyu couldn't help but praise Princess Xi in her heart. Princess Xi's cultivation at such a young age was indeed impressive. If it was any other noble family's daughter, she would have asked to find a place to hide from the rain instead of continuing to travel in the rain. Not long after, dark clouds covered the sky. The 7 Stars forest was as dark as night. Flashes of lightning flashed across the sky like sharp knives stabbing into the ancient forest. Lin Muyu comforted his mount so that it wouldn't be frightened by the lightning. Chu Chu also slowed down his galloping speed. He had to take good care of Tang Xiaoxi. After all, Princess Xi's cultivation was his top priority during this trip. Looking at the long sword and longbow on Lin Muyu's back, Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. Brat, why are you carrying a bow? This is my hidden weapon. Hidden weapon. Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. What's the use of this hidden weapon? Lin Muyu said seriously, although my cultivation in martial arts is far from yours, I know that an inch longer is an inch stronger. If the enemy is tens of meters away from me, I will use my bow and arrows. If he gets close to me, I will use my sword. If I don't have a longbow, the time he gets close to me will be wasted. If I can kill the target from a few meters away, there's no need for him to get close to me, right? Chu Chu was stunned for a moment. He couldn't help but nod his head in approval. What you said is reasonable, but this longbow is too conspicuous and too ostentatious. It can't be considered a real hidden weapon. If you really want a hidden weapon, I have a gift for you. Oh, a gift? Lin Muyu couldn't help but be happy. Chu Chu took out a cloth bag from the backpack on the horse's butt and tossed it over. Lin Muyu caught it and opened it to see that it was 4 very exquisite flying daggers. The curves of the daggers were very bright and they were as clear as the moon. Even in the dark environment, one could see that the edges of the daggers were like snow. These are the weapons left behind by Feng Yicheng. Feng Yicheng is an expert in using flying knives. He can take a person's life from 100 meters away. These 4 flying knives can be shot one by one, or they can be combined to form a rotating blade. But it takes a lot of effort to master this hidden weapon. Chu Chu said. Thank you, Chu. Lin Muyu smiled. Tang Xiaoxi, who was at the side, blinked her big watery eyes and smiled. Feng Yicheng? Could it be the famous general who guarded the southern border for nearly 20 years, Feng Yicheng? Yes, that's him. Unfortunately, General Feng died in the hands of the bandits. Chu Chu said with some regret. What's rare is that Feng Yicheng wasn't born of noble blood. He was a genius and one of the 12 commanders of the empire. What a pity. Tang Xiaoxi said, Feng Yicheng died in battle more than 10 years ago. It's rare that Chu still has his belongings here. Chu Chu said, he was an old friend of mine. These flying knives were given to me by someone before he died in battle. Lin Muyu's mind trembled. He suddenly felt the weight of these 4 flying knives increase. He gratefully raised his head and looked at Chu Chu. Thank you, Chu Chu. This time the gratitude came from the heart. However, Chu Chu smiled. It's a good thing I'm not good at using hidden weapons. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had a chance to obtain such a divine weapon. That's right. These flying knives were extremely exquisite. Every one of them had a hollowed-out air passage and a rotating design. This meant that every flying knife would return after being thrown out. If one wanted to use such a hidden weapon well, one must practice the skill of catching and retrieving it. This was also a big challenge. If one couldn't catch it or let it go, one's hand would be gone. After all, these flying knives were too sharp. He put the flying knives into his bag and slowly practiced later. Chapter 17. In the rain, the spiritual beasts all hid in their nests, as if they couldn't find a good target to attack. Thus, the 3 of them advanced slowly in the rain. Chu Chu didn't have an umbrella or a cloak in the rain, but the rainwater flowed down his body, not drenching his clothes at all. This was a little shocking. Lin Muyu also had a basic understanding of the holy domain and he was very shocked. Chu Chu only smiled at the shocked lad and said, every heaven realm expert can turn their true qi into battle energy. That's an even stronger power. With the protection of battle energy, you will naturally be impervious to fire and water. Lin Muyu nodded, not really understanding. Tang Xiaoxi took off her cloak and revealed a beautiful face. She smiled and said, Chu Chu, what kind of beast spirit do you think I need to refine to help my fire fox martial soul grow? Chu Chu said, the fire fox is of the fire attribute, so it's naturally better to absorb the spirit of a fire attribute beast. However, the rain is slippery and the fire attribute spiritual beasts are all hiding in their dry nests. I don't think you'll be able to find one even if you want to. Moreover, Princess, she is about to enter the earth realm, so you'll need to absorb at least 2,000 beast spirit, which will be even harder to find. However, Lin Muyu's green gourd might be able to find a good enough spiritual beast. Is it because the green gourd is of the plant attribute and the rain is the best time for plants to grow? That's right. Chu Chu looked at the dense forest in front of him and said, get off the horse and walk. We'll enter the forest and see if we can find 1 or 2 suitable plant attribute spiritual beasts. The 3 of them dismounted from their horses and held onto the reins as they walked through the dense forest. At this moment, the rain seemed to be getting heavier and heavier, and the pitter-patter of the raindrops could be heard. Lin Muyu furrowed his brows. He did not have Chu Chu's level of cultivation, nor did he have Tang Xiaoxi's waterproof cloak. His entire body was already drenched, but it did not matter, he could endure this little bit of hardship. Careful. Chu Chu suddenly stretched out his hand to stop the 2 youngsters. He pointed to a black plant in front of them and said, let's go around it. There's a plant that's currently eating. Meat plate? Lin Muyu was stunned. What's that? Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Mu, the carnivorous plate is a plant-type spiritual beast. In fact, it's also a kind of wild beast. It specializes in eating rotten corpses. It's not very aggressive, but it's highly poisonous. Let's avoid it. Chu, how old is this plate? Chu Chu said, There are a total of 7 black circles on the top of its head. It should be a 70-year-old meat dish. Forget it, the spirit of this plant-type spirit beast isn't pure. It's not worth using. Lin Muyu stared at it fixedly. Could this millstone-sized plant really eat meat? The next moment it seemed to feel that someone was staring at it. The slightly trembling millstone-sized plant slowly raised its face. It was a face full of barbs and mucus. It was hideous and terrifying. Below the face, there was a mouth that was chewing on the carcass of a young wild boar on the ground. For a moment the stench filled the air. Ugh, so disgusting. Tang Xiaoxi covered her nose and quickly led her horse away. Chu Chu said, "Brat, stop looking. Let's go." Lin Muyu hurriedly chased after it, but she was still in a state of shock. The 7-star forest was indeed an inhumane place. There were even these kinds of monsters. This carnivorous plate was something that she had never seen before in the game. It seemed that not everything in this world matched up with the game's timeline. After walking for a long distance, the 3 of them couldn't find the path anymore. They could only cut their way through the thorns. Lin Muyu also pulled out the sharp steel sword from her back and walked in front of Tang Xiaoxi to cut the thorns. As they walked, suddenly a green vine appeared on the ground. It was so green that even the steel sword couldn't cut it. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be shocked. What kind of vine is this? Why is it so tough? Chu Chu only glanced at it and said in a low voice, "Stop cutting or you'll die." "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu hurriedly stopped. Chu Chu's eyes lit up as he looked around. He smiled and said, "It seems that we've met the legendary green vine monster. We're really lucky." Green vine monster? Tang Xiaoxi smiled excitedly and said, "I've seen the description of this kind of spirit beast in the 100 Beasts chart, but I've never seen it in person. Where is it?" "Princess Shi, you have to be careful. This green vine monster has at least 500 years of cultivation." "Ah." Tang Xiaoxi opened her small mouth. "Then it should be very strong?" "Yes." Chu Chu pointed forward and said, "Boy, your spirit beast has appeared. Do you see the red crown of the grass in front of you? That's the head of the green vine monster. Go kill this green vine monster, but you must be careful of its vines. If you get entangled, I'm afraid even a god wouldn't be able to save you. Remember, I won't save you. If you can't kill this green vine monster, then you'll become its delicious meal. This green vine monster eats plants and also humans." Chu Chu's words were firm and unquestionable. Of course, Lin Muyu also knew the pros and cons. She took a deep breath, but she wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Instead, she dipped all the arrows in her quiver in a paralyzing potion and drank a bottle of stone skin potion. If her defense was strong enough, she shouldn't be killed so easily. Tang Xiaoxi stood at the side and summoned her martial soul. The fire fox appeared on her shoulder and seemed eager to fight. She smiled and said in a low voice, "Mu, be careful when you fight." Suddenly, the green glow of the green gourd slowly appeared on his arms. The power went through his arms and into his weapon. He turned around and chopped down. Crack. A crisp sound was heard. One of the vine arms of the green vine spirit had been chopped off. Green juice splashed everywhere. Beautiful. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and cheered. But at the same time Lin Muyu's back shook. His back was hit by one of the vine arms of the green vine monster. He quickly bent down, but his chest was hit again and he rolled on the ground. He felt a burning pain and blood seeped out of his clothes. He was injured. Ah! Tang Xiaoxi was shocked. She felt the heat in her palm and the fire fox martial spirit appeared. She roared and the fire soared into the sky. She was going to attack. Chu Chu quickly shouted, "Princess Shi, don't. He can only rely on himself to pass this, or else he won't be able to surpass his own strength, and he will never know where his limit is. If you really care about him, you must believe in him." But Tang Xiaoxi was speechless for a while, and she could only continue to watch Lin Muyu being chased by the green vine monster. She used the falling star steps to escape, and at the same time she turned around and pulled out her bow to shoot. The power of her martial spirit was concentrated in her arms, and each arrow almost penetrated the trunk of the green vine monster, but it didn't seem to be fatal. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The surroundings shook violently and suddenly the ground was lifted up. Thousands of vines rose from the ground, and directly tied Lin Muyu up. She actually fell into the green vine monster's trap. Stupid moo. Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance in shock. Chu Chu closed his eyes and sensed Lin Muyu's aura fluctuation from afar. The corners of his mouth curled up as he said with a smile, "Don't worry, Princess Shi. This kid's life is very tough. He won't die so easily." Sure enough, after a loud shout, the steel sword pierced through the green vines and cut down dozens of vines. Lin Muyu stepped out. Although he was in a sorry state, he wasn't dead yet. Chu Chu said loudly, "The green vine monster's weakness is its head. As long as you can cut off its head, you can kill it." "Damn, old man, why didn't you say so earlier?" Lin Muyu endured the pain in her body and activated the falling star steps. She leaped into the air and stepped on the green vine spirit's vine arm as she dashed forward. Her speed was so fast that she was like a bolt of lightning. Chu Chu was secretly shocked. This guy is really a freak. Where did he get such a fast speed? Logically speaking, with his cultivation level, even if he drank a first-grade speed potion, he shouldn't be able to move so fast. Chapter 18. Ka. After the steel sword was infused with the power of the martial spirit, it seemed to become a divine weapon. After a flash of light, the green vine demon immediately let out a violent howl and slowly collapsed. Lin Muyu stood on its head and very quickly, the green spirit of the wild beast formed a circle above the green vine demon's head. "Now," Chu Chu whispered, "sit down and use your green gourd to absorb the vine monster's beast spirit. Not only will it increase the power of your martial spirit, it will also increase your own strength. Your body has just entered the chaotic stage, so there is no clear standard for your strength. But after the first evolution of your martial spirit, your strength will be determined." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She immediately sat next to the vine monster's corpse and summoned her green gourd. The moment her martial spirit touched the vine monster's beast spirit, she didn't even need to guide it. The green gourd began to crazily devour the vine monster's beast spirit. Since they were both plants, the green gourd seemed to be more compatible with the vine monster. The green gourd's light became brighter and brighter. At the same time, Lin Muyu felt that the strength of her Jin Qi was increasing. The vine monster had brought great benefits to her. At the side, Chu Chu smiled and said, "If this kid is lucky enough, he might be able to comprehend the beast spirit's main body's special skill." Tang Xiaoxi blinked her eyes and said, "But Grandpa told me that the probability of learning the special skill of the beast spirit is less than 20%. My fire fox has evolved twice, but it only learned the fire wolf's flame." Chu Chu said, "This is all up to fate. My fire cauldron has a total of 9 layers and evolved 9 times, but it only has 3 skills. It all depends on this kid's luck." Lin Muyu was refining the beast spirit, but she could still hear their conversation. At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in her mind. It was the elven female official Lulu. She had woken up again. This was the perfect time. She appeared in front of Lin Muyu and stretched her body. She smiled and said, "I slept so much, Lulu." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. "I'm refining the beast soul. Help me open the cauldron. Hurry." "Yes." When Lulu opened the cauldron, a bright light enveloped Lin Muyu. Chu Chu and Tang Xiaoxi could no longer see what Lin Muyu was doing. They only knew that he was absorbing the spirit of the wild beasts. However, in front of Lin Muyu, there was a cauldron floating in the air. The green gourd was spinning rapidly in the cauldron. As an elf officer, Lulu seemed to be able to see through everything. She smiled and said, "The skill contained in this spirit of the beast is entanglement of roots. It can provide the effect of gourd vine entanglement, but it needs some materials to make a weapon." "What materials do you need?" 1 liter of water, 2 gold coins, and some soil to nourish the gourd vines." "That's easy." Lin Muyu couldn't help but chuckle. There was water in the puddle nearby. Gold coins and soil were everywhere. He took some water and dug some soil to fill the cauldron. Then he took out 2 gold coins and threw them into the cauldron. Immediately, Lulu closed her eyes and a satisfied smile appeared on her pretty face. As the items were mixed together, the cauldron shone even brighter. In an instant, all the gold coins were refined and turned into golden powder that seeped into the green gourd martial spirit. The water and soil were naturally absorbed by the green gourd martial spirit. This process lasted for about 10 minutes. It was a success. Buzz. The green gourd martial spirit trembled violently. Green vines extended from the top of the gourd. It was a very rural scene. Chu and Xianxia were stunned. This idiot Mu really awakened his martial spirit's skill. Xianxia murmured to herself. Chu laughed. This kid fortune favors fools. Lin Muyu thought to himself, I'm not a fool, I'm a grandmaster blacksmith. Lin Muyu was able to refine the wild beast spirit of a 500-year-old green vine demon in less than 10 minutes. This was too shocking. However, Lin Muyu stood up in high spirits. Her aura seemed to have undergone a huge change. Chu smiled and said, Kid, why don't you show me your martial soul's skill? Yes, Chu. With a thought, the green gourd martial spirit appeared in front of her chest. Shwa, vines wrapped around a small tree, immobilizing it. When Lin Muyu exerted his strength, the small tree was snapped in half. Wow, this is fun. Xiaoxi laughed. Mu's martial spirit skill is so interesting. Princess, you're flattering me. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. Xiaoxi immediately broke his pretense. I'm not flattering you, I just think it's very interesting. This kind of childish skill is useless in a real battle. Lin Muyu was speechless. It's better than nothing. Chu comforted her. Lin Muyu nodded in relief. Alright, let's use the testing crystal to see your current strength. The testing crystal was in the bag on the back of the horse. After taking it out, Lin Muyu covered it with her palm, shouted in a low voice and exerted all her strength. Suddenly, her martial spirit shone brightly, and the strength reading in the testing crystal increased rapidly, jumping continuously. Finally, there was a long line and 7 short lines. Chu smiled slightly. Level 17 warrior, not bad. Anyway, you've stepped into the second layer of the human realm. If you practice for a few days, there's still hope for you to defeat Huawan. Well, thank you, Chu. At night, the heavy rain finally stopped and the entire 7-star forest was muddy. It was impossible for people to live in this kind of deep mountain, and hunters didn't dare to live in the depths of the 7-star forest. After all, no one wanted to wake up in the middle of the night and be bitten off by a 1,000-year-old spirit beast. Therefore, Chu, Lin Muyu, and Xiaoxi could only camp in the mountain for a night. After finding some dry wood, they rested in a small kernel. Xiaoxi ignited the wood with her fire fox martial spirit, baked buns and had dinner. Then, under the light of the fire, Xiaoxi sat cross-legged and practiced. Her whole body was emitting a faint flame aura. This girl practiced the law of fire and her figure was indeed very hot. After practicing for a while, Lin Muyu's genuine qi could already pass through her meridians without any obstruction. The legend of the heaven's disabled body had been broken, but the strength of her genuine qi couldn't be increased rapidly. She had to give up. She stood up and took out the flying daggers given by Chu from the bag. It was time to practice this flying dagger technique. The longbow was not a hidden weapon, and it was not convenient to carry around, let alone attack when the enemy was unprepared. For fear of hurting Xiaoxi, he went to the hillside and observed the 4 flying daggers in the moonlight. They were unique and exquisite, shining brightly under the moonlight. Throw. Shwa. The cold light flew far away, emitting a shrill sound in the wind. In the blink of an eye it returned, but Lin Muyu didn't catch it. He didn't want to die yet. Pa. The flying dagger pierced into the tree trunk at the side. He pulled it out and threw it again. Then he dodged it again and observed it over and over again. Just like that he threw for more than an hour. In the darkness, a figure observed him for a long time and finally couldn't help but ask, "Why don't you try catching it?" Lin Muyu turned around and smiled. "Oh, it's Chu. It's not that I don't want to catch it, but I need more experience and observation to understand the trajectory of the flying dagger under different strength and angles. Otherwise, I'm afraid both of my hands would be ruined." Chu couldn't help but laugh. "What a smart boy. I really didn't misjudge you. In your hands, this flying knife will definitely be able to display its full potential. However, you've been observing for too long. Try to catch it. As a martial artist, it's almost impossible to cultivate a secret art without suffering some injuries." However, this was too much of a test of eyesight, especially under the moonlight. But Lin Muyu still started to try without hesitation. He suddenly threw the flying dagger and quickly judged the angle of its rotation, as well as the rotation trajectory of the handle and the blade. He wanted to catch the handle, not the blade. But he suddenly made his move, but his fingers didn't completely touch the handle. Instead, they were swept by the blade before he could grab the handle. Suddenly, he felt a burning pain and blood flowed out. His index finger was cut open. Fortunately, you are an alchemist. You have all kinds of medicine for wounds. Chu Chu laughed, taking pleasure in Xiao Chen's misfortune. Lin Muyu didn't have the mood to bother with this inhumane teacher. He took out some medicine and applied it on his finger. Then he tried a dozen more times. When he didn't catch it the second time, he quickly dodged it. He could catch the rest, and he had already mastered the technique of catching knives. The next step was to judge the trajectory of the flying dagger after it hit the target, which was even more difficult. When it was late at night, Lin Muyu's left and right hands were already full of wounds. Luckily, he had a sense of propriety and didn't injure his muscles or bones. Otherwise, it would definitely affect his cultivation. Even so, he had almost used up all the medicine. Luckily, he was an alchemist and could concoct medicine on the spot. He looked around and found some silver thread grass and long night flower. They were common herbs, so he picked some. Then he found an iron pear flower. Hua! He opened his hand and the essence condensing hand appeared. He started to extract the energy from the iron pear flower. Chu Chu leaned against the stone wall, pretending to take a nap. However, he was secretly watching Lin Muyu as she refined the medicine. Just as Lin Muyu was adding the iron pear flower's medicinal essence powder into the gold sore medicine, Chu Chu finally could not hold it in any longer. He leaped forward and raised his eyebrows as he asked, "Brat, according to the medicinal encyclopedia, the gold sore medicine only requires silver thread grass and long night flower. Why did you add the iron pear flower?" Lin Muyu smiled and said confidently, "Although the iron pear flower's energy powder can't cure injuries, it can speed up the healing process. Furthermore, the silver thread grass and long night flower are both warm, while the iron pear flower is cold. After neutralizing the cold, the medicinal effect will be even better." Chu Chu's eyes widened. You're not lying to me, right? Why would I lie to you? The medicine I concoct is definitely a first-grade medicine, do you believe me? Chu Chu sniffed the bottle of medicine he had just concocted. His face turned ashen. "It really is a first-grade medicine." Lin Muyu continued to concoct the medicine. She took out some swift wolf's blood and softened the energy of the blue-silver grass. Finally, she took out an apple from her bag, crushed it and soaked it in apple juice. Chu Chu was dumbfounded again. "Why did you add apple juice?" Lin Muyu smiled. "The swift wolf's blood is very violent and aggressive. Adding a little apple juice can soften its aggressive nature, making the medicine more effective. Also what?" The Saint Realm expert's eyes widened like copper bells. Lin Muyu smiled. "Also, the medicine made with apple juice is very tasty." "Very, very tasty." Chu Chu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His knowledge in the alchemy world was instantly subverted by this young man in front of him. Chu Chu was an expert in martial arts all his life, but he was a rookie in alchemy. So much so that after meeting a grandmaster alchemist like Lin Muyu, he didn't feel like he had ever learned alchemy. As if he could shake the heavens but not the earth. He opened his left palm slightly and with a low roar, a bolt of purple lightning suddenly condensed between his fingers. With a ping sound, a giant rock on his right was directly broken in half. This is the lightning strike. It condenses the lightning element of nature and instantly attacks the target separately. It can be used barehanded or in conjunction with a weapon. Chu Chu was calm and composed. With a slight shake of his sleeves, he let out a low roar. Immediately, the ground around him began to tremble. Fighting chi was released and layers of green rock shields appeared around him. In the blink of an eye, the shields were shattered. This is the green rock armor. It condenses fighting chi into a wall to protect oneself. It is also a combat technique that I created. It is suitable for defense. You can also condense the green rock armor with fighting chi. However, the green rock armor, created with fighting chi, is even more indestructible. As he spoke, Chu Chu let out a low roar and clenched his hand into a fist. He threw a punch at the giant tree in front of him. The air instantly fluctuated and after a sharp whistling sound, the tree received a heavy blow. Peng! The branches of the tree shook violently, but Lin Muyu did not see any damage to the tree. She smiled and said, "It doesn't look like much? Is that so?" Chu Chu smiled slightly. "Take a closer look." When Lin Muyu looked again, she found that the bark of the giant tree was cracked. Even the trunk was as brittle as cotton and fell with a loud bang. This woke Tang Xiaoxi from her sleep. She rubbed her beautiful eyes and sat up. "What happened?" Chu Chu smiled from afar and said, "Princess, it's nothing. Still early, you can sleep a bit more." Tang Xiaoxi was sleeping soundly, so she didn't think too much about it. She laid on her side and fell asleep again. This move is called Demon Sound Fist. It uses the pulsation of battle chi to create a strong fluctuation effect in the air, forming a sound wave to attack the opponent. If your cultivation is high enough, you can even injure the opponent's internal organs. Chu Chu smiled proudly. "It's also a martial art that I created. How about it? Lightning Strike, Demon Sound Fist, Green Rock Armor, which one do you choose to learn?" Demon Sound Fist. Lin Muyu did not hesitate. This move was too flashy. Chu Chu smiled and said, "You really know your stuff. It's a pity that the Demon Sound Fist requires a lot of chi to use. As for you, you should be able to make some progress in it in about 7 or 8 years." Lin Muyu was slightly surprised. "This? Then I'd better learn Lightning Strike. If I use it with my sword, the power should not be small, right?" "That's right. I also approve of you learning Lightning Strike." Thus, Chu Chu sat cross-legged on a huge rock and began to dictate the principles of Lightning Strike. First, she must learn to meditate and feel the lightning element in the air. If she couldn't even feel the lightning element, then she would not be able to learn this move. Lin Muyu was naturally smart. After meditating for a little more than an hour, she could already feel the violent lightning element in the air. These elements were like living creatures. When Lin Muyu tried to touch them, they would move far away. Chu Chu faintly smiled and continued to teach. One of the great mysteries of condensing the lightning element was the word, absorb. You must use your own chi to attract the lightning element. During this process, Lin Muyu practiced for almost 2 hours. Finally, he learned how to release his chi to absorb the lightning element. When the lightning element between his 5 fingers was dense with crackling sounds, he was so excited that his heart almost jumped out. The last part was a relatively simple process. He had to infuse the lightning element into the blade and then find the best angle to cut through the air. This strike had to be fast and accurate, and it could not be sloppy. When the lightning element passed through the air and formed a shock wave, this move would be considered complete. Lin Muyu pulled out the steel sword, and with a low roar, the lightning element flowed from his arms into the steel sword. The edge of the sword was wrapped in lightning. Although it wasn't as strong as Chu Chu's, it still looked quite powerful. With a schwa sound, she forcefully slashed down. The friction between the lightning element and the air created a chi-chi sound. "Too slow." Chu Chu wrinkled his eyebrows and said, "This sound isn't right. If your attack speed is too slow, then the destructive power will naturally decrease. The shorter the sound of the friction between the lightning element and the air, the stronger the destructive power." As he said this, he raised his arm and lightly waved it. Almost without any sound, the small tree at the side had already been cut in half. Do you see this? Only when you reach this speed can it be considered a true lightning strike. Lin Muyu originally thought that he had made some small progress. Now, compared to the power of Chu Chu's lightning strike, he simply hadn't even reached the beginner level. Therefore, Lin Muyu practiced sword after sword until she was so focused that she forgot to eat or sleep. On the other hand, Chu Chu plucked an iron pear flower and sat to the side. He slowly used the condensing essence hand to refine the medicine, but his condensing essence hand technique was too strong. It caused the outer layer of iron around the iron pear flower to crack and emit a series of explosive sounds. This meant that the refining of the medicine had failed. The iron pear flower's medicine had already been contaminated and destroyed by the impurities. Lin Muyu watched from afar and shook her head as if saying, "You can't even do such a small thing." Chu Chu lowered his head with a face full of shame. His use of true chi was far inferior to Lin Muyu's, at least when it came to the application of the condensing essence hand. Refining medicine required a moderate amount of strength. It was not good to have more or less than that. All the way until the wee hours of the morning, Lin Muyu finally couldn't take it anymore. She lay down not far from Tang Xiaoxi and slept for a while. However, she didn't sleep for more than 3 hours before she was woken up by Chu Chu. Chu Chu seemed to be a person who never needed sleep. He didn't sleep for the whole night but instead seemed to be full of energy. He held up a pile of medicine and asked Lin Muyu, "Look, how is the purity of these medicine?" Lin Muyu only glanced at it and said, "It's much better than last night. With more practice, the condensing essence hand can be considered a success." "That's right, how's your lightning strike practice going?" Chu Chu asked with a smile. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. The moment she raised her hand to pull out the long sword, the lightning element had already appeared on the blade. With a kacha sound, the blade cut through the air, splitting a stone the size of a bowl into two. The cut was very neat. Chu Chu nodded and smiled. "It's not bad. It's slightly powerful now. With more practice, it'll naturally become even more powerful." Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, was so shocked that her small mouth gaped open. Mu is actually this powerful. After hastily eating breakfast, they continued to advance into the depths of the Seven Stars Forest. They only had one goal, and that was to find a fire element spirit beast. Moreover, it had to be above 2,000 years old. Using this kind of spirit beast as an offering for Tang Xiaoxi to reach level 30 and enter the Earth realm would be enough. Unfortunately, the heavens didn't seem to want them to meet a suitable spirit beast too early. In the morning they saw 3 spirit beasts. A 1,200-year-old green python scared Tang Xiaoxi so much that she cried out. A 240-year-old mountain cat, but unfortunately, it was of the wood element. The only fire element spirit beast was a fierce bear, but it only had 700 years of cultivation, so they could only let it go. "Chu, I heard that old spirit beasts can produce spirit stones and spirit stones can be sold for money. With your cultivation you can easily kill these spirit beasts. Why are you avoiding them one by one?" Lin Muyu asked. Chu Chu sat on his horse and said leisurely, "All living beings have intelligence and they are also living beings. They have the same right to live as us. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I won't kill spirit beasts for spirit stones. Besides, Jinxiong coins are just a common thing." Chapter 20. Lin Muyu was secretly speechless. Chu Chu's cultivation was indeed not something she could compare with. He seemed more like an otherworldly expert. Perhaps all experts who had stepped into the Saint Realm would be like this? Who knew? In any case, the strongest person Lin Muyu had seen was this level 94 Saint Realm expert in front of her. The second strongest person was Eagle Eye, who was killed by her with a single slash. It was a pity that Eagle Eye treated human life like grass. Compared to Chu Chu, he was simply an unforgivable villain. In the afternoon, they had officially entered the true depths of the Seven Stars Forest. All kinds of spirit beasts ran amok, and many of them were ferocious beasts that killed people. Fortunately, Chu Chu's cultivation was extremely high. He brought the 2 young people along and avoided the foraging routes of the spirit beasts, so they were safe. When it was close to evening, they finally came to a wasteland. Immediately, Chu Chu became excited and said with a smile, "Princess Shi, your beast spirit is not far away." Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face was filled with confusion. Chu Chu explained, "It's obviously autumn now, but the grass in this wasteland has already withered. This is a sign of winter. This can only mean that the grass has been roasted. There must be a fire attribute spirit beast living in this area. Furthermore, to be able to affect the environment to such an extent, the beast spirit must be at least 2,000 years old." Tang Xiaoxi said happily, "All right, let's hurry over." Chu Chu urged the horse forward, and Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi also followed. As they got closer, even the wind that blew against their faces had a scorching feeling. Further ahead, the small forest was already barren, and only a few withered trees were left. Chu Chu dismounted, plucked a branch and slowly crushed it, saying, "This tree has been withered for more than 3 years. This evil beast must have been here for more than 3 years, so it is quite familiar with the terrain and smell here. Be careful, we might have encountered an extremely strong spirit beast. If the beast spirit is more than 10,000 years old, the 2 of you should quickly run." Lin Muyu asked cautiously, "Could it be that Chu can't defeat a 10,000 years old spirit beast?" Tang Xiaoxi giggled, "Silly Mu, Chu is a level 94 Holy Venerable, and a 10,000 years old spirit beast should have the strength of a Holy Venerable. If this spirit beast is more than 30,000 years old, then it should have the strength of a level 100 holy king. We don't even have to run anymore. Chu looked back at Lin Muyu and smiled. Hey, are you scared yet? Lin Muyu sat lazily on the horse. It's all right, a princess and a holy venerable will be eaten with me. As a level 17 trash, it's not a loss. Tang Xiaoxi glared at him and chuckled. You're quite optimistic. Chu smiled subconsciously. He could not see the arrogance and hatred of young people in Lin Muyu, but he saw more gentleness and motivation. This was also one of the reasons why Chu admired Lin Muyu. Perhaps it was because this kid's alchemy skills were really good? Not long ago, Chu tied his horse to a withered tree at the side and carefully pulled out the sword on his waist. It was a red long sword which was quite similar to his personality. Although Chu had entered the saint realm, he still had a fiery temper. Moreover, his martial soul was the fire cauldron, so he was born with the fire attribute. This was also the reason why Tang Xiaoxi's grandfather asked Tang Xiaoxi to follow Chu to train. The three of them slowly came to the foot of a mountain and found a big hole between the rocks. The surrounding rocks were even burnt black. Chu bent down and used his hand to smear the soil on the ground. He sniffed it and said, "The last time it passed by here was about 2 days and 2 nights ago. Could it be in its nest?" Tang Xiaoxi asked. "Chu, do you know what kind of beast is in this hole?" Chu looked at the trail of flames on the ground and said, "It's a crawling creature, but it seems like a part of its body is moving along the ground like a snake. What is this?" Saying so, Chu looked at Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi and said, "You two wait for me outside, don't go in with me. This beast seems to be in a deep sleep, and it's definitely a beast spirit over 5,000 years old. With your strength you won't be able to help much." Lin Muyu nodded and Tang Xiaoxi didn't act willfully either. He stood guard outside with Chu. Chu held his sword and entered the cave alone. After waiting for a full 5 minutes there was no movement at all. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said, "Grandpa Chu couldn't have been eaten by a spirit beast, right? It's been so long." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "It shouldn't be, he's a holy venerable." Just as she finished speaking, a violent tremor came from inside the cave. Then they heard Chu's voice coming from inside the cave. "Run, it's a 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon." Fire flood dragon? Tang Xiaoxi's mouth was wide open. She didn't understand. She had never heard of a spirit beast like the fire flood dragon. Lin Muyu knew it wasn't as simple as it seemed. She quickly grabbed Tang Xiaoxi's hand and used falling star steps to rush to the side of the stone hill. There was a burning sensation behind them. Roar. With a deafening roar, a giant creature chased after Chu out of the cave. It was indeed a fire flood dragon. It was a creature with the head of a horse and the body of a snake. It had 5 claws, but its body moved on the ground. Its body was covered in thick scales, but these scales were wrapped in raging flames. With a roar, it spat out a mouthful of flames at Chu. Damn! A fire flood dragon. Lin Muyu was secretly shocked. A 9,000-year-old fire flood dragon was around level 87. It was a bit weaker than Chu but not by much. Moreover, it was a spirit beast that had cultivated for close to 10,000 years. Its bestial nature was enough to close the gap. Chu didn't dare to be careless. He suddenly stopped and with his sword in hand he let out a low roar. The fire cauldron came out of his body and condensed into a giant shield in front of him. This was his martial soul's ability. Flames shot out and the surrounding grass was quickly ignited. This place was about to become a sea of fire. The fire flood dragon roared and suddenly pounced forward, crazily swinging its claws at the fire cauldron. Peng peng peng. After a series of attacks, Chu found it extremely difficult to defend. His face began to pale and cold sweat dripped down. He clenched his teeth and decided to go all out. Ping. Lightning appeared on the blade of his sword. With a low roar, Chu activated the cyan rock armor. His figure flashed past the fire flood dragon's chest like lightning. It was the lightning strike. The fire flood dragon's front leg was immediately cut off. The lightning strike separation ability was very powerful. At this time, Chu used the lightning strike to show Lin Muyu how powerful this simple move could be. Lin Muyu was naturally dumbstruck. She understood the strength of a 9,000-year-old spirit beast. The scales of the fire flood dragon were extremely hard. but Choo Choo had actually cut off one of its legs with a single slash. Oh. Under the pain, the fire flood dragon could no longer stand straight. It opened its jaws and bit down on Choo Choo. Choo Choo's aura soared. With a loud roar, the fire cauldron suddenly expanded and began to spin rapidly. With a ping sound, the fire flood dragon's head was blown away. Then Choo Choo's left fist slashed out, sending out a demon sound fist. Ping. The fire flood dragon fell to the ground with an anguished howl. But it still didn't die. Its giant tail swept out like a sharp whip. Choo Choo raised his right arm and the fire cauldron emerged from his body again. He used the walls of the cauldron to block the fire flood dragon's attack. With a loud explosion, cracks appeared on the fire cauldron, but the fire flood dragon was in an even worse state. Its entire tail was a bloody mess. Woo! Choo Choo gave a pitiful cough. His martial spirit and body were one, so if the fire cauldron was injured, it was the same as him being injured. Blood dripped down from the corners of his mouth. In order to kill this fire flood dragon, he had also taken quite a bit of damage. The fire flood dragon roared. Its powerful vitality allowed it to continue raising its sharp claws and pouncing towards Choo Choo. Choo Choo retreated again and again. He wanted to use the demon sound fist to attack this wild beast vitals. Otherwise, even if he killed the fire flood dragon, he would only have half a life left. At this time, Lin Muyu couldn't stand it anymore. With a low shout, the azure gourd emerged from her body. With a thought, the azure gourd martial spirit flew out. Gourd vines broke out from the ground. This was the twisting root skill. With a rustling sound, the vines wrapped around the fire flood dragon's injured leg. However, the fire flood dragon was too strong. With a roar, it struggled to break the gourd vines. Woo! Lin Muyu felt pain all over her body. Her martial spirit had been injured. Although the gourd vines were very tough, they were nothing compared to the strength of a 9,000-year-old spirit beast. However, this bought Choo Choo a few seconds. When the fire flood dragon turned around, Choo Choo had already exploded with a demon sound fist. A sharp whistling sound came from the air. With a loud ping, the fire flood dragon's eyeball was directly blasted open. Choo Choo was in for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. He lifted his sword and flashed like lightning, sending out 3 lightning strikes in a row. Ka ka ka, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. In the next moment, the fire flood dragon's giant head flew to the ground. Blood spurted everywhere. This 9,000-year-old spirit beast was killed just like that. Great. Tang Xiaoxi cheered with a smile. Choo Choo wiped the sweat off his forehead and nodded towards Lin Muyu. He then said, Princess Shi, hurry up and absorb the fire flood dragon's beast spirit. Stop when you've absorbed enough. Otherwise, your body won't be able to bear it. Tang Xiaoxi nodded. She sat cross-legged beside the fire flood dragon's corpse and released her fire fox martial soul. The fire fox squeaked loudly and greedily absorbed the fire flood dragon's spirit energy. Balls of flames enshrouded Tang Xiaoxi and the fire fox, making it almost impossible to see them clearly. This process lasted for nearly an hour. Suddenly, Tang Xiaoxi let out a miserable cry and fainted on the ground. Wisps of flames flew out from her mouth. What's wrong? Lin Muyu was greatly alarmed. Choo Choo's face was even paler and his entire body was trembling. What would happen if something happened to Tang Xiaoxi? She was Duke Songlan's only granddaughter, the true pearl of his palm. If something happened to her, his life would be in danger. The fire flood dragon's beast soul is too strong. Xiaoxi has absorbed too much of it and her body can't take it anymore. She needs to cool down with cold water. Quick! Choo Choo suddenly lay on the ground and listened to the pulse of the earth. He then flipped himself up and said, Lin Muyu, use your footwork to carry Princess Shi 5 miles south. There's a lake there. Quick! Lin Muyu hurriedly bent down and carried Tang Xiaoxi. However, the moment she carried her, she felt as if she was hugging a piece of burning charcoal. Use your martial soul to resist the heat. Let's go. Lin Muyu hurriedly summoned the green gourd. As expected, the small gourd could reduce a lot of the heat. However, it was still very unbearable. She activated the star steps and dashed towards the lake in the south. Choo Choo's running speed was slightly slower. He shouted, When we reach the lake, carry her and jump into the lake. Take off her clothes. Quick, don't hesitate. Lin Muyu's mind went blank. Did such a good thing happen to her today? However, she didn't have time to think about it. Tang Xiaoxi's life was at stake. No matter what would happen between them in the future, the most important thing now was not to let her die. Soon, the lake appeared in front of them. Lin Muyu leaped and fell into the lake with Tang Xiaoxi. Pfft! Like a fireball falling into the water, Tang Xiaoxi's clothes were quickly taken off. Soon, the beautiful princess appeared in Lin Muyu's arms naked. She was in extreme pain and subconsciously extended her arms to hug Lin Muyu's neck. She could feel the coldness from Lin Muyu's martial soul. That was what she needed. Water vapor rose from the surroundings and it was almost impossible to see what was happening. At this moment Lin Muyu was in even more pain. The beautiful princess was in her arms and she could even feel her proud breasts pressing against her chest. The feeling was indescribable. Oh no, I've fallen. Chapter 21. The raging fire force gushed out from Tang Xiaoxi's body, and Lin Muyu could only rely on his martial soul to neutralize the force. However, the fire force of the 10,000-year fire dragon was so strong that it could not be neutralized by a mere green gourd. The fire force quickly raged in the lake, and with a sizzling sound, the lake water continuously evaporated. In the blink of an eye, the entire lake seemed to be boiling. Woo! Tang Xiaoxi woke up from her coma with a moan, but she only felt that her internal organs were burning, and every cell in her body was on fire. She did not know that the beast spirit of the fire dragon would be so violent, and she did not expect that she would not listen to Chu and absorb more of it would be fatal. At this time when she opened her eyes she only saw Lin Muyu hugging her with his eyes closed. The front of his chest was almost burnt black, and a faint layer of light from the green gourd martial soul enveloped him. If it was not for the green gourd he would have been burned to death. Looking down at herself she was naked. In an instant Tang Xiaoxi's heart trembled and her face turned red. However, when she looked up and saw Lin Muyu closing his eyes to neutralize the force, she could not help but feel touched. Just as she was about to say something, a wave of fire force rushed to her soul, and she fainted again in Lin Muyu's arms. Unknowingly, Chu had already arrived at the lakeside. Seeing the young man and woman hugging each other in the lake, he did not stop them. Instead, he sighed in his heart, "This kind of fate, how can I obtain it?" After a while, Chu said from afar, "Lin Muyu, hold on, the princess's life is already in your hands, you must hold on no matter what. This is also a kind of cultivation for you and it can greatly enhance the strength of your martial soul, understand?" Lin Muyu did not speak at this time. Even if he did not want to hold on, he had no choice but to hold on. He was already tied with Tang Xiaoxi. The fire flood dragon's flame force was too vicious. In the blink of an eye it surged 7 or 8 times. Gradually the tip of the green gourd martial soul was burnt black. The martial soul and the cultivator were one. Lin Muyu felt a sweetness in her throat and a mouthful of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth to her chest. Her mind became blank and her spirit was about to collapse. "No, I can't give up like this." He gritted his teeth. How could he give in so easily? Enduring the damage to his martial soul, he continued to extract the excess fire dragon's spiritual power for Tang Xiaoxi. Nearly 2 hours had passed and more than half of the water in the lake had evaporated. The water in the lake could only reach the ankles of Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi, but this did not stop them from releasing the fire force into the lake. Finally, Tang Xiaoxi let out a whimper and woke up once again. This time she finally felt that the heat in her body was under control. She gently exerted her strength and the fire fox martial spirit also woke up from its deep slumber. It squeaked and lay on her shoulder. On the contrary, Lin Muyu groaned and finally couldn't support herself anymore. She knelt in the mud and spat out another mouthful of blood into the lake, dyeing the originally clear lake red. Tang Xiaoxi was embarrassed and anxious. The moment when Lin Muyu knelt down, his body almost fell along with her, and her cheeks slid down her delicate breasts. This kind of touch was something she had never experienced before. For a moment her cheeks blushed, and she stood there staring blankly at Lin Muyu's cheeks resting on her lower abdomen. The more she looked, the redder her cheeks became. She did not know what to do and only anxiously said, "Mu, are you okay?" In the distance, Chu took out the luggage on the back of the horse and with a hua sound, threw a piece of clothing over and said loudly, "Princess, put on some clean clothes and bring Lin Muyu ashore. His martial soul is seriously injured. Tang Xiaoxi quickly put on an exquisite green cloak, and then carried Lin Muyu. She activated the power of her martial soul, and with a leap she brought him to the dry shore. Lin Muyu was unconscious. After Tang Xiaoxi changed into a new set of clothes, she anxiously asked, "Chu, is he okay?" "It's all my fault. It's all my fault, otherwise he wouldn't be like this." She was so anxious that she was about to cry. Chu glanced at Tang Xiaoxi and he secretly calculated in his heart. Tang Xiaoxi's identity was simply too illustrious. She was the granddaughter of the Duke of Zhonglan, one of the two founding fathers of the empire, and she was fully deserving of being the apple of his eye. Logically speaking, Lin Muyu was merely a commoner, and for a commoner to die for a noble like Tang Xiaoxi, wasn't it reasonable? Right now Tang Xiaoxi looked like she was about to cry. Could it be that she had feelings for this fellow? Chu didn't dare to continue thinking about it. It wasn't a beautiful thing for a noble lady to fall in love with a poor fellow, and the ending was usually a tragedy. Chu didn't wish for Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi to end up like this. Rather than that, he might as well cut off their ties now. "Principe," Chu gently said, "we've been out for long enough and Lin Muyu is also heavily injured. His martial soul contains a lot of the fire energy of the fire dragons and we can't expel it. His cultivation can be considered crippled as well, so let's bring him back to Kathia City and give him some gold as compensation. What do you think?" Tang Xiaoxi was stunned and she stared at Chu in shock. Biting her red lips, she called out his name in a stern voice, "Chu. Princess." Chu hurriedly knelt on one knee. There was a difference in status and he understood his own identity and position. "I order you, you must save Lin Muyu, or I will absolutely not return to the imperial capital with you." "Yes." Chu sighed inwardly, knowing that he couldn't be the bad guy who severed his ties with Lin Muyu. "Fine, I'll save him then. In any case, Lin Muyu's injuries had something to do with me. Lin Muyu's green gourd only has one layer, so there's a limit to how strong it is. He's almost crippled by the flames, and even if he's saved, he can't use his martial soul anymore. There's nothing we can do unless..." Chu was at a loss. Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. "Unless what?" Chu continued. "Unless we can obtain the beast spirit of a water-type spirit beast that's at least 5,000 years old, and use water to control the fire. Only then will we be able to cure his green gourd martial soul. But water-type spirit beasts over 5,000 years old don't run around everywhere, so it's easier said than done to find them. If we were in Lanyan City, we might be able to easily find such a spirit beast in the dragon-seeking forest, but this is the Seven Stars Forest, and the types of spirit beasts here are far inferior to those in the dragon-seeking forest. Then what should we do?" Tang Xiaoxi slowly knelt beside Lin Muyu's body, and she couldn't help but burst into tears as she recalled how Lin Muyu hugged her to remove the flame force desperately. At this moment the sun was setting and the tide of the lake was rising. Chu suddenly stared at the lake in a daze. "What's wrong?" Tang Xiaoxi asked softly. Chu clapped his hands and said, "Princess, Lin Muyu can be saved." Tang Xiaoxi stood up abruptly and her face was filled with joy. She smiled as if she had just escaped from a desperate situation and said, "Tell me, Chu, what's going on? Have you thought of a way to save him?" Chu nodded and pointed at the lake that was slowly rising and said, "The tide in the lake area usually won't rise so quickly, and there's a strong smell of medicine in the lake. It's the smell of the rainbow lotus. If I'm not mistaken, there's a very old giant beast living in the lake. The black tortoise." "Black tortoise?" "Yes, the black tortoise is a magical underwater creature that can swallow clouds and spit out mist. It's said that a black tortoise over 2,000 years old has swallowed a huge amount of water and compressed it into its body. Since the tide can rise, it means that there must be something abnormal at the bottom of the lake, and there's the smell of the rainbow lotus in the lake. As far as I know, the black tortoise's favorite food is the rainbow lotus, and this smell must come from the black tortoise's feces. Since the tide is rising, the black tortoise must have discharged its feces when it was defecating." Tang Xiaoxi was flabbergasted. At this moment Lin Muyu's body twitched slightly and she woke up from her coma. She sniffed her nose and said, "What's this smell?" Is it the rainbow lotus? I haven't smelled it for a long time. Chu Chu chuckled. Kid, you're lucky. Don't move around and wait here. I'll be kind today and lure the black tortoise out for you. You and Princess Xi stay here, I'll kill this black tortoise. Lin Muyu quickly thanked him, even though she didn't know why he wanted to kill the black tortoise. In the next moment, Chu Chu activated his martial soul, and the fire cauldron came out of his body with a buzz. With a stride, it rushed into the depths of the lake and was submerged by the lake water. After a full 10 minutes there was still no movement. Lin Muyu stood up and circulated the true qi in her body, but she found that the true qi was flowing smoothly. However, the green gourd martial soul seemed to be heavily damaged and her meridians were also injured. A wave of heat that could kill was rampaging in her meridians, but there seemed to be another force suppressing the spiritual power of the fire flood dragon. Otherwise, her weak body would have been burned long ago. Why is it taking so long? Tang Xiaoxi was a little anxious. Just as she finished speaking, a wave of water suddenly rushed into the sky. It was a water arrow. Chu Chu flew out of the water with the fire cauldron in his hand. With a loud roar, he turned around and punched the water. A giant beast chased after him from the water. It was indeed a giant tortoise, and it was an extremely ferocious giant tortoise. Its body was extremely sturdy, and the radius of its shell was at least 20 meters. As it swam, it created waves of water and its momentum was astonishing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tang Xiaoxi counted as she opened her small mouth and said, 6 golden tortoise shells. Wow, this is a black tortoise that's at least 6,000 years old. Your luck is really good. After killing the black tortoise, you can refine its beast spirit. Lin Muyu nodded her head and said, N. Very quickly the black tortoise was lured to the land by Chu Chu. It roared like a super tank, but the water arrow attacks were all blocked by the fire cauldron. After all, there was a great disparity in strength. In the blink of an eye, it was tortured to the point of death. In the end, it was directly killed by Chu Chu's heavenly lightning strike. Quick, Lin Muyu, use your martial spirit to absorb this black tortoise's beast spirit. Lin Muyu used the falling star steps and rushed over. She only felt a burst of dizziness and her body was too weak. She sat down cross-legged beside the black tortoise and began to refine the black tortoise's precious beast spirit. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.